That's our new opening tagline. You live.
You live, comma. Make sure you add the comma. You live.
Well, so for those of you guys that are just joining us, since we just started, prior to us turning on the cameras, Russ goes, dude, that's the craziest live background I've ever seen. I'm like, that's the real background. And I'm in my office today. He's like, wow, like a real boy back there.
See, next time I need to do the same thing. We can record from my office.
There you go. Yeah, especially this time of year, right? Like nobody's even in there.
No, they might have some people like, duck in the. They're like, what? Who's he talking to? Why is he saying all those incendiary things? Like, it's my job.
This is Dr. Russell. I thought he was cool.
No, definitely not that.
It's like, never tried to be cool, provocative. Yes, for sure. Hey, weird. Lisa's on. What's up, Lisa? So, dude, so it's been a couple weeks. So what are we talking about today?
Well, I read a really interesting book yesterday. Whole thing, start to finish. I like doing that every once in a while. Just do the whole book. And
for me, that would be a short book.
So it was my first Sigmund Freud book.
Ah.
And it's this one. Sorry, it's kind of backwards. This is Moses and Monotheism. This is his last published book. And I realized
But the first one that he wrote?
What?
But the first one he wrote, you said? This is his first book?
No, the first one I've ever read. I've never read any Freud. And everyone's always said, like, oh, he's amazing, super interesting. It was riveting. I loved every minute of it.
Really?
Yeah. It's almost certainly wrong. But the funny thing is that he knows that too. Because there's one point in there where he says, now the astute reader will probably notice that they'll probably say that I've been cherry picking my examples, that I've just looked at the things that agree with my theory and have just ignored or said that they were sort of later distortions, anything that would go against my theory. And
they'd be
true. Right. I have been doing that, but everybody else does that too, and so why can't I? And then there's another part in there where he says where he says something like, now I've had many people when I've talked to them about this have pointed out that the latest scholarship on this topic actually says that what I'm saying is false. And that's right. It does say that, but the latest scholarship is not.
But I'm too old to change my mind now.
Well, no, he says it's not as fruitful for this theory.
Which is what?
So I'm just going to ignore it. So it's like, so he knows it's wrong. Okay. He knows it's wrong. It's more like just like a thought experiment. Like, wouldn't this be an interesting thing? So his theory in this book is that Moses, in the story in the Old Testament, right? The book of Exodus.
He supposes his toes are roses.
Yes, he does. Even though that's erroneous. But in the biblical story, he is marked for death as an infant because there's this edict that goes out, and so his parents wrap him up, put him in a basket, send him down the Nile,
float him down the river. Yep.
Princess picks him up and is sort of completely charmed by this baby and names him Moses, which means brought forth, right, or pulled out of, and which is kind of interesting because if you look at like the name, because
later he brings his people forth. That's it. Yeah,
he does. Well, the what I think is really funny about it is if you go and look at a lot of Egyptian. We were just at the Egyptian exhibit in the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Kids and I were, and they have a lot of stuff in there from like the period that this would have taken place, and a lot of the names of the pharaohs are like, something Moses. Right? So it's like Tutmos or like that. And
okay.
Yeah, drawn from, and so it's like the father's name. Drawn from, so drawn from the father, drawn from the father,
like Ben-Hur or whatever in
exactly
Jewish culture.
So it's like how interesting that yes, this is an Egyptian word, drawn from, but she just calls him drawn from, right? Like not drawn from his father, but just drawn from, right? Like
the gods or whatever. Yeah.
The child.
So what's his theory then?
So Freud is like, no, see, everyone's gotten it wrong. It's not that he has an Egyptian name. It's that he is Egyptian. Moses was an Egyptian, and what he does, there's this one pharaoh, which is it Amenhotep the second, something, I can't remember which one, but
I just remember Amenhotep from the Mummy movies, you know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. That's right. That's the name of the pharaoh in there.
Yeah.
So one of the things that he does to consolidate his power is he says there are no gods other than one, the sun. And so he renames himself Akhenaten, sort of the soul, the force of the sun, and he outlaws all of the other gods' worship, especially Osiris, the god of the underworld. Basically, the cult of Aten doesn't believe in an afterlife. There is no afterlife. There is no, right? There is just this life and the worship of the one God, the sun, and I'm
his representative. Yeah,
yeah. So
there's one God, and I am his prophet. Yeah, I've heard this. I've heard this.
So this goes on for a while. Akhenaten dies, there's this period of like 50 years, 35, 40, 50 years, where nobody's in charge. Basically, a bunch of generals kind of take over one after the other, and then they eventually settle on this new pharaoh, the next dynasty pharaoh, who reintroduces all of the old Egyptian religion and tries to have Akhenaten's memory erased. He's removed from, like, there'll be these huge obelisks with the names of blank spot, right? Just rubbed out.
Just and chisel him out. Yeah.
Yeah. He never existed. That was not a thing. But one of the things that he did do, Akhenaten did, he moved the capital to another city that he built in order to honor the one God, is Amarna. And a lot of his stuff is still there, including hymns to the Aten written out in the hieroglyphs. It's very interesting.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
So Freud's theory is an Egyptian, a high-ranking Egyptian, who not only converted to the religion of Aten as a political move, but like really believed like there is one God. When Akhenaten dies, and there's this period of 35 years, people are looking for, like, what do we do next? And he saw the proverbial handwriting on the wall here as like, this religion is going to die out. So he finds a group that is there on the outskirts of, maybe it's his area, like maybe he's the governor of this area. And he takes this group and he's like, this is the one God. We're going to leave. And we're going to establish the worship of this one God. And we're going to do it the right way. We're like an ultra
and this is ostensibly Moses, is what he's saying.
This is Moses. Yeah. So Freud says this is Moses. Moses takes these people out, and then he has some interesting observation in there that I think might actually be true. Is that the Egyptians practiced circumcision. Herodotus mentions that Egyptians practiced circumcision. That's one of the things that was like very unique about the Egyptians. And so it's like it wasn't something invented, or at least if it was invented in more than one place. The Egyptians, we know, already were doing this. So he's thinking that Moses leads everybody out. He's their governor or whatever, leads everybody out to establish a new colony of like pure religion of the one God, gives them very similar Egyptian customs, and then he's killed at Kadesh Barnea. So if you remember in the story there, the waters of strife, the river of strife, where it's like there's like some kind of in the biblical story, there's like a big summit where everyone gets together and agrees it's time to cross the river into the River Jordan.
Is that when Moses hits the rock or whatever, and God says, "Yeah, you can't go." Yeah,
you can't go.
Okay.
So so this is the part where he just starts kind of making it up, but it's like a good story, right? So
Yeah.
he says, okay, so what happens is, the whole time, right, the story keeps going, like he's doing this stuff and the people are like, we can't stand this anymore, we're gonna kill that, because people conspired to kill Moses, but somehow it didn't happen, or like God intervened at the right
Because
moment.
he's got the sun god on his side. So
Got the sun god.
Yeah.
But at some point the people
The
kill
Lord
him.
of Light.
Yeah.
Oh, the people kill him. Yeah,
So the people kill him. And so then they feel this.
And then whoever
terrible-
writes the story, they need to like, no, we'll create this mythology basically.
Right. Well, so here's how the mythology happens. The group, the strife part, this part that intertwines, there is this regional deity, Yahweh, which is Jahve, right? And
Interesting.
this local god's Canaanite deity is probably a volcano god. He's always associated with mountains, the thundering of the mountain, right? So he's a volcano god. He has a consort, Asherah. And so like you'll see these old inscriptions, it's like, to the Yahweh of the South and his Asherah, all glory be to who you, whatever like that, this king sends this tribute. And it's like, okay. And so you had these two groups of people. You had the Moses people, who are still upset that their leader, their founder, has been murdered by these people. And they were super interested in the one God only and all sorts of stuff. And then you had this other group that were devotees of this, sort of generally bloodthirsty volcano god that's like, you need to go slay all your enemies and my kind of stuff. And so at the Waters of Strife, they basically have a kind of, we're going to get together.
Come to Jesus meeting.
We're gonna call the one God by your name, and we will be a part of your group, and you'll be a part of our group, and we'll just move on together.
Coalition building.
This lasts until the separation of the northern and Judean kingdoms. So
the Israel and Judah split is
right.
He's contending is partly based on.
Yeah, well, like in any grand compromise like this, there's only so long you can keep it going. So like after 150 years, the divisions here just become too great, and you eventually are like, I can't work with those guys anymore.
We papered them over to invade this country, but now those generations have died, and now it's like, I got it.
Right. And so Kingdom of Judah is the one that
doesn't
remains.
Doesn't it say in the Old Testament too that the reason they split is off of some theological, there's some theological difference there that I forget.
The Northern Kingdom worshipped many gods.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So the Southern, so basically Freud's thing is like, look, you can't paper over differences forever. Eventually they reassert themselves. So sort of like an unconscious thing with that people.
Why was Freud interested in this story anyway, this narrative? Like what is it?
Jewish.
What relevance does it have? Oh, he's Jewish.
He's Jewish. And he's writing this he finishes it in 1938.
How does he account for like the Abraham story?
But look, he leaves Austria in 30. If you understand, Austria in 38 is being invaded.
Right before the
right. He moves to London.
The Anschluss,
yeah. He moves to London and publishes the book. So this is like part of his.
It's like Sound of Music timeline, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But how does he account for the? Well, I guess in his narrative, like if you just try it on and say, okay, how could this have narrative cohesion? I guess isn't the idea that Moses is the one that wrote the first 5 books of the Holy Book anyway, and so it's like, okay, so the whole story of Abraham, everything else is all complete like narrative fiction, basically, is what he's contending, right? To give these people that exited Egypt some kind of backstory that they can sink their teeth into.
Well, so the way he sets it up, which I think is probably, if you're going to go down this road, probably the most logical one, is that you have 2 Moseses, right? So Moses 1 is the governor or priest of Aten or whatever who leads these people out, gives them an ultra strict monotheism. And then the other Moses is the one that at this later point, when there's this converging of these 2 groups, that this Moses is the one who writes the Pentateuch. So there's a couple of reasons. So you know how in later parts of the Pentateuch, you talk about Moses as like the meekest, gentlest man ever, right?
Right, which we know is not true. Yeah,
Right.
not
It's like
not congruent at
Moses
all.
is like, dude has a massive temper, right? Like
Right,
there's so many
right.
times where he's just like he's like smashing stuff in frustration. It's like,
Yeah, he smashes
what do
the
you
tablets. He smashes. Yeah, he smashes all
he's like
kinds of. He kills
smacking
the
the
one.
rock, like, are we gonna have to bring water for you? Like the guy
And
is
then
the guy.
what causes him to go on the run in the story is that he sees some Egyptian beating a slave and kills the guy. Like doesn't even like push him
Straight
off,
up
just kills him. Yeah,
kills him. Yeah. So this is a guy with like a level of
anger
impetuosity.
management issues. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and,
yeah,
and like many great leaders have this element where it's like they're kind of scary, and like
yeah. Right.
inspire some devotion here. But then you have this other Moses, the meek, like what's that? And the Moses that initially resists circumcising his son. Like that's weird. Like that doesn't sound like the other Moses, right? And the Midian religion does seem to be this religion of the volcano god. And so the volcano god that speaks to him on a mountain out of a fire. So it's like, that is second Moses. So you have Egypt Moses and you have Midianite Moses. And so then those two become one Moses for the sake of the unity of this new people group.
The
We're going
narrative.
to move
Yeah.
into this area together. And so, so the
Interesting how.
patriarchs are the patriarchs of second Moses. First Moses doesn't have any patriarchs, they're the pharaohs. Second Moses has these patriarchs. And they can legitimately lay claim to this land. They're like, yeah, like our ancestor came from there. We're going back. Like, absolutely, And the first group, they're like, well, we need a home. And these guys seem amenable to saying that their God is the one God. Let's go for it,
Isn't it interesting how, like, even back then, the idea that the story, right, the story that we're asking everybody to buy into is really what the whole journey, it's the glue that holds everything together, is a good story. And it's like, I was watching Game of Thrones, rewatching Game of Thrones. I just finished it, actually. Lambert and I were going through it together, and I got to the last episode. When Tyrion, for those of you guys, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones now, I don't know what to do with you. But the very last episode, Tyrion comes out basically to try to unify this. Completely fractured. It could have devolved into complete chaos. And he's like, but what holds people together is, it's not money, it's not power, it's not fear, it's a story, and so what better story does somebody have than this particular character? And here's why he would be great, but it's like, that's really true. It's like, just, if you can tell a good story and you can spin a good tale and you can get people to buy into it, like America, the whole idea of America. We were talking about this a couple months ago. I think you and I may have been talking about it, but certainly the person I'm thinking of, we were having an argument about what does it mean to be an American, right? Like, well, it's like the old cry back in the old days, right? It's like France for the French, Germans for the Germans, type of thing that came out, in ultra nationalistic periods. You'll have people that do this, and it's like, well, so what does it mean? It's like, well, we want, especially around the immigration argument. It's like, it's like, well, this country's for Americans. Okay, well, what is an American? Certainly not a Native American, and we know that's not them. So, like, who else are we talking about here? And and I remember where this conversation came from now. My apologies to you, Kels, for misremembering the genesis there, but it's like, well, what is it to be an American? It's like, it's the story, right? It's a story of leaving whatever oppressive government or regime or whatever you came from to seek opportunity, and that you come to this place where you're judged on your merit, you're judged on your accomplishments, your ability to work, your ability to create value, and you can become whatever you want. And like that story, of like people who died for this and all this other stuff, and it's like that, all of that it's like, that's what, if you buy into that, you buy into pretty much what it means to be an American, like, if you don't, then maybe, that's where it's like, one of us, I don't know, but like, to me, it doesn't, I don't know how other people feel about it, but it's like, I don't care what color somebody is or what their background is or were they raised in this way or have Judeo-Christian value, any of this nonsense. It's like, no, what really matters is, do you believe in self-determining your own future? Do you believe in having, freedom of opportunity? Do you believe in all those kind of things, or what? And obviously it devil's in the details, but like, if you can buy into that bigger narrative, we're good, as an idea. I think that's fascinating. What's that?
If you feel that way and wish to bequeath that life to your children, then you probably belong here with us.
Right, because we're in then we're in this together. On some level, we're all working for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, that's fascinating. I don't know of another place. I mean, maybe I'm sure there is, but certainly not at this scale. Of a society that actually like tried that as an experiment, and it's still going. Pretty good.
Nation of ideas rather than a nation of ethnicity or something like that.
Tony says, "What's up, man?"
Hey.
Oh, we just lost a viewer. Maybe that was Tony. Yeah. Oh no, that's okay. He wanted to get it live.
Interesting book. I really liked it. The thing about it that annoyed me as someone who tries to take the Old Testament at face value is that it's not shocking that Moses has an Egyptian name, because it says that he does. And it's not shocking that there would be massive amounts of polytheism in the Israelite area in Canaan. And it's like, because that's in the narrative, like there's constantly these issues. Like one of the kings makes it like one of his signature things that he takes down Asherah worship places. And like, that's late. I mean, that's like past King David's. Like we're getting into like much later, and they're like, oh yeah, there is all these little sacred groves where people are having sacrifice, but he was the one that finally put a stop to it, kind of stuff. And it's like, so the archaeological record shows lots of polytheism among the early Israelites. That's
well, it's interesting.
That's what it says.
You ever read anything about like early Gnosticism? I'm sure you have. Yeah. In the Gnostic tradition, and if you, and it's not like you have to look very hard. Like, I mean, the name Elohim, for example, in the Old Testament, which was used to refer to God, is actually a plural word. And people today will say, well, yeah, because it's the Trinity. See, the Trinity's even in Genesis. It's like, I don't know if that's necessarily what. So the Gnostic theory is that there is a God who is in charge of the council of gods, but Yahweh is, one of these lesser gods around the table, and he's the one that is constantly talking in the Old Testament. Like, I'm a jealous God. Don't worship any other gods before me. These people are all worshiping this other God. Go kill them. Kill everyone. Like complete, not just genocide, but like, it's so funny. And we were talking about genocide the other day. It's like, it's what is, and we could maybe talk about this later, but it's what's going on in Gaza, for example, a genocide, right? And it's like, well, it all depends on how you define genocide, right? So if you use the definition that is, the UN and everybody else uses, the dictionary definition of genocide, absolutely, it would qualify. If you use it as like, oh no, it has to be at least as bad as, the extermination of the Jews, let's say, in Nazi Germany. Well, then no, it doesn't quite rise to that yet, but it's certainly somewhere in between those, right? And it's like, well, how can genocide be bad? Like, God calls for genocide in the Old Testament like multiple times, like just wipe all of them out. Don't leave a man, woman, in fact, kill their cattle too. Like, we don't want any of these sheep. They were associated with these other God worshipers. They're dead too. It's like, wow, this Old Testament God is something else.
Total war at a level that you and I would not be able to understand.
Right, but it's like, but certainly, if you the people of that time, like, either they got this method. I remember that book you had me read a couple of years ago, the Bicameral Mind, and it's like the people thought they hear the voice of God, but it's actually their own what we would think of as our conscience or you know, the crazy thoughts that pop into your head. But for them, it emerged as like, oh, I got this message, you know, I had a dream.
Yeah.
You know,
The God wants me to do this.
God told me to do this. And it's like, you know, well, we need to, that's pretty brutal. Look at all these dead babies. We need to come up with a good story. I know God told us to. You know, it's like,
so, you know, I actually, so I was thinking back to some Old Testament stuff. So the story of Abraham sacrificing Isaac, right? And to us, this completely shocks the conscience. Like if I heard a voice that said, you need to kill your children, or whatever, it's like, I'm checking myself into a hospital right now. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not doing that at all.
Yeah.
It's like, if that even is the voice of God, it's like, well, then we're done. Like, I can't do that, you know? But if you look at the time that it's written, the time that the events are supposed to have taken place, there is a long tradition of sacrificing the firstborn, especially the firstborn son. And in fact, in the conquest of Canaan, one of the opposing tribes, like the king, sacrifices his son publicly in front of the invading army that's coming in, the Israelites coming in, and they all back off because they're like, oh crap, like their God is going to hear that. They're like, we better not attack, right? Like, this dude just made the ultimate sacrifice, and they all understood what that meant. And so the idea of the God, you know, telling you need to sacrifice your firstborn son is not that weird. Like, it's difficult in the thing because this is the son of promise. It's like, the son you told me that this son. You're like, I don't understand. So it's like, it doesn't take away Abraham's the paradox of Abraham's situation, but it's not like that command is so unusual or so like he would have understood that this is the kind of thing that gods sometimes ask for. There's so many examples of this. So if you think about like world history, especially within the Fertile Crescent, that Mesopotamian area, war is normally waged by removing the currently existing population, and like either removing them completely or making them your slaves. But there's not like,
and then eventually breeding them out.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to topple your government, but then, you know, everything else stays the same, and we're just the boss, and you're the civilians. It's like, that concept just doesn't exist. So I was starting to think like this sort of prohibition on genocide. At what point, if we start backing up the clock, at what point does that prohibition seem irrational or meaningless to the people? Like, if we if we rewound the clock to Sargon of Akkadian, right, like the founder of Babylon, and said, "Thou shalt not commit genocide," he'd be like,
"What are you talking about?"
So we know that command would make no sense whatsoever then. Greece, I think it would have made no sense to the Greeks, the Greeks of like the Mycenaean Greeks. Probably not to like the height of Athens. Like Aristotle talks about, like, or Plato talks about, like, we really shouldn't enslave other Greeks. Like, that's, you know, we can have our differences, but we shouldn't enslave other Greeks. But you know, of course, the barbarians are like,
I mean, but yeah, they're not Greeks. Right.
So then when we get to Rome, would the Roman period see a prohibition against genocide as like stupid or ridiculous? I mean, they're pretty brutal with the Gallic campaigns. Of course, they're met with brutality in return. So I mean, the feeling is mutual. When is it that command starts to make, or that sort of ethical standpoint starts to make sense, do you think?
I don't know. I'm actually just typing it into the AI right now. Yeah.
Which one are you using?
Gemini, you know.
Gemini. Jumping Gemini. So I'm really curious about this because it seems like no genocide is a very modern
Well,
sort of.
so basically, it started. I asked the question. Of course, like these models, they're all like trying to anticipate, like, where's he going with this? And like we're having a completely like conceptual conversation here, but it's like genocide is a complicated. Okay, so yeah, if you were to ask ancient, then I had to clarify, like, no, I mean, like in the ancient world, Bronze Age, they wouldn't have really cared. It's like, oh, you're entirely right. If you were to ask ancient Roman, Greek, or Babylonians about the complete destruction of rival people, they wouldn't have viewed it through the modern lens of human rights violation. In the ancient world, mass slaughter, enslavement, and deliberate destruction of cultures was largely accepted as standard tools of warfare and statecraft.
How you build your empire. What else are you supposed to do?
Right.
Like, those people are there, we got to get rid of them.
So the Greeks were the first ones that popularized, apparently, the might makes right kind of adage during the Peloponnesian War. Athens demanded the neutral island of Melos surrender. When the Melians refused, the Athenians besieged them, killed all the adult men, sold the women and children into slavery. And then, I don't know how you say this guy's name, Thucydides, Thucydides recorded the Athenian justification: the strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. This is the Romans in Carthage. The Romans engaged in certainly what we would call genocide during the Third Punic War. The Roman senator Cato the Elder ended every speech with the phrase, "Carthage must be destroyed." When Rome finally breached the city, they systematically slaughtered the inhabitants, slaved the survivors, burned the city to the ground. This wasn't a crime. It was a glorious triumph and a necessary step for their own security. Wow, that sounds a lot like stuff I hear in the news now. We have to defend ourselves.
They came back to a hero's welcome.
Right. So when did that?
So like I'm not here to say like genocide is cool. I'm trying to like
I got you.
Just put some context around it. Like
where's the map of this, how people felt about that?
Yeah. Right? Like when did it become a moral evil to do this? Because it seems like, as someone who's like sort of generally skeptical, I tend to be skeptical of like recent moral evils,
Here you go. So for most of human history, rights were granted by kings, empires, or city-states. If you were outside that group, you had no rights. The first major cracks in this worldview came during the Enlightenment. So, I mean, think about that, dude. Like, so
1700s,
4,000 years plus another, so almost 6,000 years of human history. Philosophers like John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Immanuel Kant began arguing for the concept of natural rights, proposing a radical idea: human beings have inherent unalienable rights like life and liberty simply by virtue of being human. Because so there's a great scene at the end of Game of Thrones, that same episode.
Oh, yeah.
And there's
idea.
Huh?
They laugh at this idea.
Yeah, so they're all sitting around who we're going to pick as our next king or whatever, and one of the guys stands up and says, "Well, since this is going to be a king for all the people, wouldn't it make sense to have the people have a voice? Like, I mean, maybe put it up to to discussion." And they all kind of look at each
almost
other,
like a vote.
And then they all bust out laughing, bah, and one of the guys says, "Yeah, let's give my horse a vote." It's like,
no,
like, get out of here, sit down. That's ridiculous.
We're deciding this right here. We don't need anyone else to decide.
Yeah. That's interesting. So yeah, so it's really the reality on the battlefield didn't really shift until industrialization in the 19th century. And conflicts like the Crimean War and the American Civil War brought violence to a scale that shocked the global public, which led to the first practical attempts to put legal limits on violence. So the very first actual convention was 1859. The Red Cross, the Geneva Conventions. Swiss businessman named Henry Dunant witnessed the horrific aftermath of the Battle of Solferino and was appalled by the lack of care for the wounded. His activism led to the founding of the Red Cross and the first Geneva Convention in 1864 then, so 5 years later, which established international rules for protecting wounded soldiers and medical personnel. And then the Hague, 1899, 1907, international treaties. But so this is really a emergent phenomenon, in the last 150, years or so, to say that this is not something that we condone. It's interesting. It's interesting. You know, like there's a lot of conversation, I think, right now, especially like, I don't, we were talking earlier about the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, and their takeover of the which, not being a communist, I don't really have a lot in common with that wing of, let's say, the liberal left, even though I
All is
consider myself a
private
liberal.
property, man.
Yeah, I do like my things, and I like being able to get them for myself. But anyway,
No, they'll be given to you, to each
right,
according to his need,
right.
from each according to their ability.
From each according to their ability, to each according to their need. Yeah, it's great marks. I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you don't think about it too much, like my friend Leanne used to say. But
sounds horrible. Let's do it.
It's interesting though, because like there's a lot of like somebody put out this statement. It's like genocide is always wrong, right? And then ironically, like, to me, that's a pretty open and shut. On one level, it's like, okay, only a Sith speaks in absolutes, but it's like that one. I think we can pretty much all get on the same page. Like, genocide is always wrong. Like, you should not genocide people. However you want to call it, whatever the verb is there, and yet the biggest pushback on that did not come from the left. It came from the right. People on the right, specifically, fans of Israel, are like, well, you can't just make blanket statements like that. What are you trying to say? It's like, oh, dude, what I'm trying to say is genocide is wrong. If you feel like that points a finger at you, maybe you should look at maybe your own actions there.
I think that's one of those where there's this really. Do you like Plato? Are you a Plato fan?
Oh yeah, I like Plato.
Yeah, there's this one,
especially the pink Plato is my favorite.
Oh yeah, very malleable. No, I was there's this. Oh gosh, let me see if I can find the reference. There's this.
As he goes to his bookshelf with 1,000 books.
Groundbreaking book here. No, if it's in this edition, I'll find it real quick. But he's talking about like what the gods would agree on, which is, I think, kind of a fun.
That's good. Because we know the gods don't agree on much, but here's what they would agree on.
they might agree on this one. So he says this. So he's like, let's see. He says, so the quarrel of the gods would be like this, he says. So he says, oh gosh, no, I can't find it.
While you're looking that up, so just to put the cap on that genocide conversation. So the actual coining of the term came from Raphael Lemkin, who was a Polish Jewish lawyer in 1944. So in his youth, Lemkin had been deeply disturbed by historical massacres, taking particular interest in the architects behind the Armenian genocide that was perpetrated by the Turks. So when he later fled to Europe in 1941, he lost 49 members of his own family to the Holocaust then that followed behind it. In his 1944 book, Axis Rule in Occupied Europe, he sought to give what Churchill called a crime without a name. That's what Churchill referred to what was going on at that time, Germany. He combined the ancient Greek word genos, which is race or tribe, with the Latin suffix side, killing, to coin the term genocide. Defined it not as just mass murder, but as a coordinated plan of different actions aiming at the destruction of essential foundations of the life of national groups. So if you use that original definition that Lemkin came up with, because it became law basically just a couple years later. So in the Nuremberg trials in 1945 and 1946, Lemkin successfully lobbied to have the term genocide included in the official documents, which it was. And then in the United Nations in 1948, passed the Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, December 9th, 1948. So, but if you use his definition, which he created it in 1944, and it was global law in 1948. I mean, think about that as a trajectory for making something happen. This guy was obviously very effective.
You just needed a word to describe the reality on the ground, which everyone could see. I mean, there's photos, there's all sorts of stuff.
But what is this? It's not murder. It's mass murder. It's not mass murder. It's something else. It's like targeting this particular group of people with not just like killing them, but like making life untenable for them, right? And is really his coordinated plans of different actions aiming at the destruction of essential foundations of the life of those people. So it certainly what was going on in Rwanda would have counted, as well. Certainly, I don't see, using that definition, I don't see how you can say what's happening in Gaza would not qualify as a genocide under that definition. And there's certainly like other, like using that specific definition, like I think it would be real simple to say, okay, well, yes, here, and here, these are all genocides. And then the question is, okay, well, so what, I think just last week or 2 weeks ago, I saw something from the administration about the International Criminal Court, and that they want to, I can't remember, they obviously we haven't signed that.
Yes,
we don't want, because it's like, well, from our perspective, I remember when I first heard that decades ago, I was like, well, that's wrong, man. Well, we're not, but like, we are in a unique position in the sense that like, we have our troops all over the globe. Like, obviously they would be, subject to all kinds of issues. But that begs the question of, hey, if you can't stay on the right side of international law around the world, then should you be around the world? Like maybe you should reconsider your situation there. Anyway, go ahead.
Plato. So we're talking about like the issue of like, should murderers go free, right? And so he says, so Socrates is talking to his friend Euthyphro, and he says, well, speaking of men, Euthyphro, did you ever hear of anyone arguing that a murderer or any sort of evildoer ought to go free? And Euthyphro said, I should rather say that they're always arguing this, especially in the courts. They commit all sorts of crimes. There's nothing they'll not do or say in order to escape punishment. So Socrates then says, well, but do they admit their guilt, Euthyphro, and yet say that they ought not to be punished? He says, no, they don't do that. So then there are some things which they do not venture to say and do, for they do not venture to argue that the guilty are to be unpunished, but they deny their guilt. So then they do not argue that the evildoer should not be punished, but they argue about the fact of who the evildoer is.
They're not the evildoers. That's right. Yeah.
Who is the evildoer? Yeah. What did he do? And when? And he says, and the gods are in the same case. If you imply they quarrel about the just and unjust, and some of them say that they wrong one another, and others of them deny this. So basically, he's like, look, that's what people are arguing about, right? Not so when someone says, hey, do you condemn genocide? And it's like, well, yes. And it's like, well, why won't you condemn that? So, well, I have a disagreement about who the genocide person is.
And that's not genocide.
When, and it's like, what would make it genocide, whatever. But not that they're going to say like, well, no, I love genocide. Genocide's amazing. It's like, it shouldn't even be a crime. It's like marijuana. We should legalize it.
Well, so this was my point in this conversation I was having. I was like, look, if you can't, I mean, not that I'm sitting here and asking you to take the Pledge of Allegiance, but if you have a problem with that statement, then you clearly think that people that you support are involved in a genocide, or you wouldn't have a problem with that statement. Like, it's like all you got to do is just change the definition. Like,
we're against genocide.
Genocide is always wrong, right. So if you have a problem with it, I mean, it's one thing to say, I don't believe. Yeah, I agree. Genocide is wrong. We're not doing a genocide. Here's why. Right? Okay, that's a perfectly like Socrates said. That's a very defensible argument. But to get pissed at people who are saying that genocide is wrong, like I don't see how that. You're basically proving their point by getting upset about it.
Well, there's one view. Maybe this is what they're doing. Maybe there's this. There's one view of history that's like right and wrong are temporally indexed. So like what counts as right and wrong actually changes over time. It's not like there's one right and wrong, and then some civilizations get it and other ones don't, and it's like no.
I'd have a hard time arguing against that. Like,
well, in that case, then you can't affirm that genocide is always wrong, because there are plenty of times in the past where it was right.
In this timeline, currently where we are today.
So you could say something like, currently, genocide is wrong everywhere. But that's different from saying that genocide is wrong throughout all time. Is always wrong.
But then now we're arguing about the definition of what always is.
Well, no. I mean, I just take always to be like across all temporal moments, right? So like
it's like saying, well, it's always
time, point to a random spot.
It's always hottest.
2 equals 4 is going to be true. You pick any time on the timeline, it's true there too. Gravity is always going to be an inverse square, and its relationship of mass and force.
No, in its relationship to mass, but not on Earth, So, depending on where you, depending on where you stand.
Yeah, inverse square of the distance to the mass. That's that's always going to be across the entire universe the same. So it's like, I could tell you that one is true at all times, and I think it's a really interesting claim. Like I might really want to say, as a Christian,
it's always hottest in July. Well, not in Australia.
I might want to say as a Christian that something like genocide is always wrong, and that times in the past people have been mistaken, horribly mistaken about their employment of it, and that it should have never been used ever, and that they were wrong. Like the Babylonians were wrong to do it. But that's because I have like a different moral framework where like how things count as right and wrong are different from, just like what people are doing now or what is socially acceptable.
But I don't see, like, if you try to, like, if you claim that you follow, not you, but like if an individual claims that they follow the Bible, for example, for the Bible, if you claim you follow the Bible, then you can't say genocide is always wrong because Yahweh called for genocide. You can't say that slavery is always wrong because he called for slavery. You can't say he did. He said enslave these people.
Right. You would have to say that like human initiated genocide would always be wrong.
Without God's imprimatur, Well, okay. Well, how do you demonstrate God's imprimatur to the satisfaction of other humans?
This is the way Saint Augustine handles this, because he wants to take the conquest stories very literally, and so he says, well, what would be wrong for you or I to tell someone to do would be right if God told you to do it, because he wrote the laws of morality, and so he's the only one that can understand the exceptions in order to command them, but you or I could never do that. So it's like, don't, basically what he's saying is don't look in the Old Testament for excuses for what you want to do, right? Like we already know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to love your neighbor, kind of thing. And so, yeah,
because there's a bunch of other instructions here too, that, like stoning my children if they disobey me, that's in there.
Very specific for the time. And
it didn't say that. It said until I revoke this command.
No,
it doesn't say that.
I'm just saying this is Augustine's view. Like
I'm debating Augustine here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Gotcha. It's like I probably can't do his view justice. I'm not as smart as he was, but anyway. So
I'm not either. I find some holes in your argument, sir.
but I think that's the way you would have to write it out. Is you'd have to say, if you took that view, you'd have to say, well, look, the human initiated genocide is always wrong, ahistorically, regardless of when it occurs. Human initiated genocide is always wrong. And so, but guess what? Some of the crazy people, like the Mike.
This is why I want to hear what Mike Huckabee, because he is crazy. But this is why it was so smart for that Pharaoh to get rid of all those other gods, because if one of these deities said that it's okay to do something, it's like, dude, I'm just following. It's like, no, we outlawed that deity. You can't listen to him anymore.
Yeah, you can't listen to that.
And I'm the one that says what this one thinks, and so that's wrong.
Yeah. Like that deity's words aren't good here. I'm sorry,
Yeah, we don't take that currency here.
So I kind of did a little bit of looking into this stuff, because you were talking about like these factions of people.
Thing.
Yeah, factions of people who believe that Israel has like a divine, not right, but like command to take this land, right? This is the land of promise and all this other stuff. And so then they might also agree with human initiated genocide is always wrong, and this is a genocide, and still say, but this is not human.
It's the Lord's work, man. We're going to do God's work out here.
And we don't want to be the ones blaspheming the Holy Spirit. So
sure,
So
there's a documentary that's out right now, or that's coming out, about there's a town in Gaza that has been predominantly settled by and inhabited by Christians, Palestinian Christians, for the last several hundred years anyway. It could be go back to all the way to, a couple thousand years, but Israel like just completely obliterated this place, like burned the churches to the ground, all this stuff allegedly. And so, it's like, well, what does God have to say about this? Like it's unfortunately it's God's chosen people, so we can't really do anything about it. It's like, yeah, but aren't you? I don't know. The Jewish children of God get some preference over the New Testament followers. It's like, it's just all of this theological mishmash of like, really mostly, because you don't see Catholics buying into this stuff. It's mostly certain sects of evangelical Christians who are co-opted by this bizarre Israel theology. It's just, and it's funny because as I was kind of looking into it, the Huckabee statement, for those of you guys that don't know, he was recorded recently. Mike Huckabee is the United States ambassador to Israel. And I asked Russ a couple podcasts ago, like, hey, what's the job of a U.S. ambassador to any country that wants to represent the United States interest in that country, right? And but yeah, Huckabee thinks it's the opposite and has said so multiple times. Last time on camera, it's all over YouTube. But it's as I'm the United States ambassador to Israel,
U.S.
But I'm the U.S. ambassador to Israel, and as my job is to represent Israel's interest in the United States. It's like, what? But you go listen to like him or Ted Cruz or any number of these people who buy into this. Pardon me a minute. They buy into this theology. It's like, well, no, I mean, God says that's their land. I mean, it's right there in the Bible, and the Bible says if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. You curse Israel, you'll be cursed. And it's like, okay, so you think that the Israel that God wrote about in 1 Samuel is the same Israel that is on the map today? It's interesting. There was this rabbi, I want to say he was in England, right before the Balfour Declaration came out. So as it was being debated, because the British government are the ones that created the modern state of Israel in 48, I want to say. And before that, they had promised it to the Saudis. They promised it to all kinds of people. We're breaking up the Ottoman Empire. We're going to carve this thing up. And they eventually decided to make an Jewish homeland in the Balfour Declaration. And one of the leading voices of what we call like Western Jewishness, this Jewish guy, I'm trying to remember his name now. I read this like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, we got to talk about this. But he wrote like vociferously against it, saying that you're going to create a huge problem. Like any true Jew, and this is obviously after World War II, right? But shortly after. So this is with the Holocaust in mind and all this stuff. It's like the Jews. He's speaking for global what do you call it? Global Jewishness. I don't know what the right Judaism. The diaspora or whatever of Jews that were living other places. And it's like they don't want. He even says I'm not. That's not my homeland. Like I'm a Brit. I'm British. I'm a subject of the crown. Like I'm proud of it. And we've all made our ways in whatever culture that we found ourselves to make that culture our own and to buy into it and make it better. The last thing we need is some homeland somewhere, because what'll happen is anyone we talk to then, like, I think this guy was like a member of, I think the House of Commons or the House of Lord, something.
And he was like, just go back. Yeah, I don't like it. Go back.
What do you even know? You belong over there. This isn't even your country. And that's what he was writing against. And what's turned out to be basically, and now to see like, members of Congress like Ted Cruz or Randy Fine or any number of these, or Mike Huckabee, our ambassador, saying that their first allegiance is to the state of Israel, like over their constituents, over the Constitution, over anything else, because God told them to, because they read the Old Testament this way. But the origins of that theology seem to me to be like, I can't find anything in American theology that comes anywhere near that until the Schofield Bible. Because Schofield in his notes is the one who really propagate, dispensational theology, and so many of the fundamental Baptist, which is now grown into the larger evangelical quote unquote world, we're trained in Schofield theology, trained on the Schofield Bible. And it's like, no, this is what the Bible says. It's like, no, that's what Schofield's notes say. That's not what the Bible says. Yeah.
Interesting theory. Like I might even agree with them, but what does that have to do with now? Right? You know, like, okay, you know, yes, sure. Like let's try that idea on a little bit, see where it leads us. It's not going to lead us to like some kind of mass murder. So
yeah, and you know, it's funny because I think one of I can't remember who I was listening to the other day. It was a pretty predominant Christian podcaster, and he was saying that, you know, like one of the tenets of Christianity, in his opinion, is that, you know, the innocent are not to be punished. Like that's, he goes, that's a theme throughout most of the scripture. Certainly the entire New Testament is, you know, that these are innocents, right? We don't punish the innocent. And like the whole idea of like the sins being visited on, you know, the sons of the third and fourth generation, all that, that's Old Testament theology. Like today you get judged on your sins and on your whatever, you know, you're an individual, and what your dad did or didn't do, or what bloodline you come from, has nothing to do with, you know, your ability to stand in front of God or in society and as your own individual person. And that's like a tenet of what you would say Western civilization is built on, is we don't punish innocent people. Like that's not what we do. And yet, you know, for example, like when we flew that rocket and killed those 100 school kids, like just the national outcry in Iran, right? And even but we were quick to go, oh, it wasn't us, you know, and then later it comes out, finds out, oh, it was us. And it's like, okay, well, you know, there's all these explanations, and you know, the president doesn't come out and make some huge apology, but everybody knows, like, that's wrong. You got to bury that story. Like, that's not okay. But meanwhile, you've got this country over here that's killed, like, I think now the count is almost 30,000 children have been killed in Gaza. And it's like, over what? Like, these are not like, the whole refrain is like, well, but October 7th. It's like, dude, October 7th was a few years ago, and they killed, you know, a couple thousand people tops, you know. And I'm not saying that's to minimize it. I'm just saying it's like, haven't we learned anything? Like we had 3,000 people killed here in America on 9/11, and we went and killed, I don't know, however many, you know, million people is north of 1 million people in Iraq and whatnot. It's like, that overreaction has landed us where we are now. It's like, okay, so is that something that we can all identify with? You know, a sense of rage and a need for justice, and it doesn't matter, they all have to die and whatever. You know, like that movie I referred to over and over again, that Kingdom movie, with Jamie Foxx or whatever. When they start the movie with the bomb, you know, we're going to kill them all, right? And at the end, when they finally get rid of the terrorists, he tells his grandson as he's dying, kill them all. It's just this perpetuating cycle of violence. And it's like, anybody with two eyeballs can see this. And yet it's like, but, you know, it's one thing for Israel leaders or whoever else to make whatever decisions they're going to make. I mean, hey, we're not in charge of them. They're their own independent country. It's fine. I mean, I'm not saying it's fine. But they're going to do what they're going to do. And we can stand over here and say in favor of, not in favor of, et cetera. But when it's like, okay, but actually it's your tax dollars are funding all of this. Like they can't survive without our patronage. Like we give them at a minimum $4 billion a year. But on top of that, and now they just passed that thing in the House of Representatives. We're going to integrate the military. We talked about that a few weeks ago. It's like, dude, like we're supporting all of this, like all of that, your tax dollars, instead of going to fix your schools, fix your roads, educate your kids, support your retirement, your money is going over there to kill kids, you know? And it's like, at some point, like, are you pissed about that? Like, I get more pissed about it every time I look at the news.
The theory. So if we were going to like just trot out the theory on the other side, so sure, we can throw tomatoes at it. You know,
yeah, of course.
So the theory would go something like this: we are currently engaged in some kind of proxy war with whatever, you know, radical Islamic terrorism, whatever, right? Like whatever that bubble is. Like would have
said a bit
before,
thin these days.
Well, before we would have said something like,
okay,
Iranian proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, whatever. And so,
sure,
so they fund those proxies against Israel, and then Israel is our proxy. We fund Israel, so we and Iran get to fight. We get to have a war through proxies. But here's the thing: is that
what does that have to do with the genocide in Gaza? What does that have
wait,
to do with the
wait,
genocide in Gaza? But
wait. So the way it works out is that we send $4 billion, but it's not $4 billion of cash. It's like four
yeah,
billion
yes,
dollars
it
worth.
is.
Four
No,
billion. $4 billion
it's cash, and then all the other stuff that we give them that's non-monetary is on top of that. You go look it up, but it's cash
But like a majority of the stuff that goes over there is weapons, technology, things that are built
on top
here.
on top of the
Yeah. Yes, the
yes,
4
and we
billion.
give it to
That's
them.
yes. But that money. So think of it as like stimulus through military spending. So it's not
How
like
how
so.
so? How does
Well,
that recoup to
so
our
like if
benefit at all?
well, I'll tell you. So like
Sure.
in the same way that any other like advanced manufacturing company creates jobs, those jobs need things around them. Factories have to be built, industries have to go support those factories. So it's like every F-16 that gets shipped over there. I mean, think of the amount of raw materials, technological support, engineering resources. It's like sending that F-16 over there is funding schools and retirement plans and infrastructure and railway systems and all this other stuff. And so it's like,
Through
yeah,
the pensions of the payrolls of the companies that are supported, basically. Like, so since the government is compensating Lockheed or whoever, Boeing, then Boeing
General
pays that money
Dynamics.
out in GD. They put that money into payroll, and the payroll harvesting into Medicare and Social Security. So indirectly, they are funding. Is that's the argument?
Well, they're funding all sorts of like the road, just even the roads going back and forth to the factory, the railway systems to get the amount of aluminum and steel, the smelting operations, like an airplane. I mean, this is the argument that happened in 2008 when the Obama administration bailed out. I think it was it Ford or GM? No, it wasn't Ford. It was
GM.
GM.
Mm-hmm.
It was that it's not just the car. It's like there's like thousands. Each
That
one of
was
these
to
cars represents thousands
listen.
and thousands of jobs behind it.
That was to protect a economy that already existed
Yes,
from collapsing. That was
correct.
not to create. By the way, if we took the money that we were sending over there, the money that we were subsidizing these companies to build it's not like the F-16s are free. So like
Oh,
the labor and the materials and the expertise that goes into those planes has real concrete value that we are paying for because we are subsidized. There's no way
yeah,
Boeing is just giving up these planes. We're paying them for the planes
yeah,
and then shipping them
yeah.
over there for free. And you're saying that the fraction that whittles down through payroll deductions is somehow subsidizing the economy more
No, no,
so
no.
than the actual direct investment in the economy
Not the
would?
payroll, not the payroll deductions. I'm saying like the engineer that's working on the guidance system for some missile out there is sitting in a house with a mortgage, and his kids go to school, and he uses DoorDash to get
That's through
Italian
his
food.
payroll. Again, that's through the payroll. He's buying all that stuff from the payroll that he receives from Boeing. Yes?
Yes,
Yes?
but then
Okay. So then so
you know
Boeing
how
is getting,
capitalism works. These have those multiplicative effects down the road, right?
and
So
you're
like,
saying funding a war effort across the world is a smarter use of capital than direct
no,
investment in the economy would be.
no. I'm not saying. Okay,
But that would be
I'm
the argument of what these
the
people are saying.
the argument here is that it has this stimulative effect on the economy, and
Sure,
we
but
might
compared to what?
disagree about like
Hold
should it
on
go
though.
here, should it go there.
Hold on. Compare first of all, compared to what? Number one. Number two would be all of this is funded by a combination of our tax dollars that are being used however they're being used. We could say, well or unwell, and borrowing because we're deficit spending. I think last number I saw was like getting close to like $1 trillion every 2 years is what's being added on. So
Yep,
so the debt service on our debt is about to pass the military as the number one line item in
yep,
the entire budget. That
yep,
has a drag on the economy that
yep.
you can't even. I mean, you could quantify it,
Oh,
but I wouldn't say that it in any way outweighs. It's crazy.
yeah,
Okay, so
no.
I'm gonna take
Yeah, here.
$100 billion and funnel it through this system and say that I'm contributing to the economy
Yeah,
versus taking the $100 billion and actually investing in the economy. It's
yeah.
nuts.
So here's the thing. Okay, like if we're talking from a fiscal responsibility angle, okay. First of all, nobody in Washington cares about any of that. You and I care, but no one else cares. So So yes, if we're saying, hey,
I don't
I
think
might
no
like,
one else cares. I agree. No one in Washington cares, but
that's what I'm
the
saying.
vast majority of
No,
people
that's
polled,
fine.
they absolutely care about it.
Yeah, no, Eric, that's what I'm saying. Nobody in Washington cares about fiscal responsibility. We care. The people care. The people in
Well, and it
Washington do
begs,
not care.
and it well, and it begs the question. Here's what where it begs the question. I mean, I appreciate the argument, and thank you for outlining. You did really good because you're right. A lot of people haven't heard that side of it. So it's like, oh well, here's why it makes sense, right? That would be the argument of why it would make sense. It's like, okay, yeah, I can agree that yes, there is some stimulative effect that is a runoff of our deficit spending all over the world. Yes, 100%. When we have all these USAID programs and all this other stuff that most people have made fun of or whatever, it's like, actually there is some benefit that it does accrue to us. And actually by funding all these people, we're funding their payroll, which makes them able to afford to buy houses and nannies and all the other things. So you could say, hey, you just hurt the economy huge, but you just eliminated all these jobs, right? And that was the argument that the Democrats were making when Trump initiated the Doge thing. And it's like, and most Republicans laughed it off, like that's ridiculous. Like we're going to save, believe me, we're going to affect the economy a lot more by just not spending this money in the first place, right? You can't make the same argument. Of course you can. So it's like the fact that you can't, that those people can't see the intellectual inconsistency in this approach. Number one, but number two, it begs the bigger question. It begs the question of, do we? And really, you can extrapolate this out to the people of like who are the major democracies, so-called, on Earth, right? United States, England, France, Germany. Like we can go down a whole list of
India,
ostensibly democratic countries, right? But then it begs the question of, do any of us really live in a democracy? So democracy, the idea is that the people have things that they want to see happen in their government, and they elect people to represent them in affecting those ideas as policy. And yet I can go down a laundry list, and we've done so before, of 80%, 90% issues, right? Yeah. Starting with voter ID and going down an entire list of like, these are wide, like not 55, 65% issues. These are 75, 80, 90% issues. And yet we can't get any of them done because we don't really live in a democracy. We live in a controlled system where people believe they get choices, but in reality, the choices that every single one of us is faced with when we walk into the voting booth is, which one of these fools do I hate the least? That's it. And it's like, and then the argument is, well, you can't start a third party. You can't do any of this stuff because you're just wasting your vote. Like you have to pick the lesser of two evils. It's like, who, I think that idea actually is at the root of where you lose your democracy to begin with. It's like, so basically the corporate interests are the money people are going to put up two candidates are basically going to do whatever they want. And they're going to cosplay a little differences here on like, well, I'm for the trans people and I'm for, for the military. But ultimately the same exact thing is going to happen no matter who you put in there,
the reason for this. So here's the thing.
Outrageous.
The reason for that is not because like the system's broken, we don't live in a democracy. The reason for that is because people are uniquely susceptible to propaganda, and we've created that into a science. And so now the people who get elected are the ones that are the most self-serving and
so then
can wield the propaganda the best way.
Fine. And I even agree with you. So what label, in what sense is that system, what you just described, how can it be labeled a democracy?
Well, it is, because the people
the people
who are heavily propagandized have a government that reflects them. You get a government as stupid as you are. What was it that Upton Sinclair said? Democracy is the form of government where the people get what they deserve, and they get it good and hard.
Get it good and hard. That's right. Get it good and hard.
So here's the thing. I just want to say, because like your like impassioned words about the wastefulness of this stuff, like I agree with you completely. In fact, I hate this idea for even more reasons. In that, like I think that using the power of government and the power of the currency to sort of pick winners and losers or prop up industries or whatever, that should be used so rarely and for like only a few, very, very spelled out justifications. So if you said, hey, look, it's really important for wartime, if we were ever in wartime, to be able to grow our own food. This is just super important. We don't know when we need this, but the time when we need to be able to grow our own food, it's too late to start. So we're going to prop this industry up for that reason. And it's stupid, but we have to, or like you could say the same thing for like the ability to manufacture aluminum or titanium. You're like, yep, it doesn't matter that that we're propping it up because for national security reasons we have to. I don't think that I think that the way this is being used now,
I don't have a problem with that. I don't think anybody listening, I don't want to speak for it, but most people have no problem with that. It's like people understand that. The problem that they have is like, I don't see a connection between what's going on over here and any national interest that you can articulate. I mean, I've asked for it multiple times. Yeah. Members of the press have asked for it multiple times. Nobody can articulate it.
Yeah.
The only articulation that you get from the actual key people driving the debate is, God gave them this land, bless Israel and you'll be blessed. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous.
So I think that the answer that I would have given you back in January of this year would have been the way normal empire works is you must keep violence to the border, the periphery of the empire. You cannot have violence enter into the empire.
Sure.
And so by having Israel as sort of the furthest outpost of our empire there,
but they're not.
Money resources flow, and that's
but they're not.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Not only in distance, but like that we have better allies in terms of people who actually we get a return on our investment that actually stand up for what we want to have happen in the region. We have better allies in Saudi Arabia, Qatar. I mean, go down a whole list of countries that.
Oh, I'd rather be allied with the UAE personally.
I mean, and it's not even a joke. It's like, look, I mean, these countries are actually like furthering our ambitions in the area, and meanwhile, this one, like they're on record saying, taking credit for like literally killing the negotiators. We're trying to cut a deal with these people to put an end to it. And they're taking them out because they don't want to.
So I know that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If we were talking about January of this year, I could say, well, hey, at a normal empire calculus,
yeah,
this makes sense. But now I can't make that claim. So
right.
I think this is a good reason to get back to you.
And that's totally fine. I mean, to me, it's I don't have a good one. I know. My opinion,
I can't creatively come up with a reason why it could be rational.
You'd be the person. You'd be the person that I'm like, but the only thing that comes out that's even plausible is this old neocon stuff from like 20 years ago. It's like, dude, like we read that book already.
We're gonna make spread democracy. Yeah, sure.
Whatever that is. And look again, and I think this is like
about.
It's like the difference between, like, I mean, I just look at my own life. It's like, okay, 2000, September 11th, right? 2001, I was 26, and I'm 51 now. And so it's like, okay, a lot of things have changed over those years. I've changed over those years. And so like, as I have a perspective looking at this as a 51-year-old, would I, as a 51-year-old person back then, would I have had this kind of reaction to, that? I don't know. I think a lot's changed in the world. It's like we were on a path in 2001 before 9/11. We were on a path of eliminating the national debt within the decade. Like the surplus that we had and everything that was lined up, like we would have been debt free by 2010. And yet here we are.
Credit that
right.
It's not a
right.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Like, but instead we're like, mortgaged to the point of bankruptcy. And yet the people, it's so quick to be like, we got to cut these programs. We're running out of money, blah, 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 blah. Oh, you need $100 billion to go invade. Like they literally took over southern Lebanon 2 weeks ago, like took over the entire place. And like the people from Lebanon, all this stuff are coming. Finally, Trump has to come out like last week is like, I'm not going to let them take over the West Bank. Like literally like dad says no type of a thing. But it's like, look, if the relationship between these two, like I heard, I can't remember who I was listening to the other, it was one of the Republican leaders. They were talking about how Israel doesn't need us. Like they don't need us. We need them. Like they're this indispensable ally in the region. We need them way more than they need us. I'm like, in what calculus? Like if we don't give them money for their military, they've got nothing. Like they're engaged in 7 wars right now, 7 different fronts of action in multiple countries, all of which are being funded by us. taking over, like literally using like the cover of this war to go and invade another Lebanon, another country. And yes, Hezbollah or whatever the case may be. It's like, it's outrageous. It's like, okay, if I have a kid, like literally this is a parent-child relationship at this point. Like we're giving you all the money so that you can go play with your toys, right? The toys that we give you, we're giving you money and toys, and you get to go play with those toys. And then you tell us, you can't tell us what to do. You go around the world bragging about how you control us, you know, like, I mean, Netanyahu's on record saying he tells Trump what to do and Trump does it, right? Like, I mean, he said it multiple times on camera. And it's like, at some point, it's like, you have to have the self-respect to be like, no, you know, you're cut off. Like, you can do whatever you want to do, but you're not going to do it in my house. You know, it's like you know, not under my roof type of a thing, you know? It's like, at some point, it's like the fantasy has to like drop, and the reality has to emerge of like, dude, you literally function at our pleasure, not the other way around, you know? And it is crazy to me. It's like in every other trade-off around the world, you can see like, okay, we do this for them. We don't like it. It's not along our values, but it gets the job done. And this is an arrangement that's workable, whether it's China and Taiwan or all these different places around the world where we just cut these deals with these cutthroats. So it's like, okay, we got to do what we got to do. This one, I fail to see like any redeeming anything out of this relation. I mean, if there is something, I welcome your comments or anybody else's, but
I think like I said, January and February, I would have had a very different answer. I just, at this point, it's like, well, if we're engaged in direct military conflict with Iran, then what exactly do we need our proxies for? We're doing it ourselves. So, you know, like you can just say thank you and we'll move on. Like I don't know. Like,
right.
It's
right,
weird. It's
exactly.
That's the part that's weird.
Take the W,
like,
man.
Like you were very useful. Cool. Yeah. Move on.
When this whole idea too that if you question any of this, you're anti-Semitic. I mean, like that. There's on Twitter, like, you know, I chimed in on some conversations. I mean, it's like, oh, well, this is it. This is emerging. You know, comments like these are so dangerous. It's like, what are you talking about? Like I could literally, like, I know a lot of Jews. I've asked them, like, hey, what do you think about what's going on over there? It's like, you know, very few. I do know one. In fact, I had a conversation with this girl, really good, sweet girl, really cool. And she was like, no, she's a believer in, you know, she wouldn't call it Zionism, but in the mission is what she called it, right? This is the mission, you know. And okay,
defended it. You're like,
and that's fine. And from her perspective, makes total sense, right? I wasn't here to argue or change her mind. I was just kind of like, let me get a sense for what people are thinking. And I think,
yeah,
I mean, there was a poll that came out a few weeks ago. It was talking about like Jewish Americans and then Jewish people around the globe, but who do not live in Israel. What percentage of them support what is going on over there? And it's like in the 30s. So you're okay. So then okay. So that means 70% of all Jews worldwide are also anti-Semitic. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Maybe so.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 70% of blacks are actually white supremacists. Like that's how much the sense that makes.
Well, there's plenty of gay people with internalized homophobia.
Sure. Yeah, we call those Republicans.
Log cabin.
Log cabin. No, those are the ones that actually accept the label. Yeah, I'm gay, gay and proud of it. Yeah.
What's the problem?
It's the ones that say that like all the stuff that's coming out about Lindsey Graham now, like all these people like, okay, I was under an NDA, but here's what was going on. And you're like, yeah, we all knew he was gay for like years and years, but it's like he was the first one saying, you know, I mean, not in the last 15 years or so, but like, I mean, 20 years ago, he was like Defense of Marriage Act and all this other kind of stuff. Yeah. He was the biggest homophobic voting member, you know.
I understand that was a relatively open secret. That was my understanding. Yeah. Is that the case?
It doesn't matter to me. It's the closeted piece of it. It's like you're going to stay in the closet and then point your finger at other people who are out in the open. Nobody's down with that. Like,
well, unless that was his position. That was like, hey, this is a thing that is kind of shameful, but you know, maybe shouldn't be legal, but it should definitely not be celebrated. I don't celebrate it part of myself. And so like, I'm not in favor of societal, I don't know, celebration of this thing. And so, yeah, that happens to be me. And that's the case. I mean, I think that's consistent. That was his view. I don't know if that was his view.
Okay, but everybody would respect that. what they don't respect is I'm going to lie about who I am and point the finger at those people. It's like, okay, yeah, you're obviously functioning from some deep internal shame. From the outside, we can diagnose it, but nobody respects that sequence of actions. You know, if you're keeping your secret buried and vilifying people who share in your proclivity, it's like, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's like, just if you're going to do that, hey, I'm standing up for society, then stand up for society. Like, hey, I struggle with this. This is something that's been plagued me my whole life. It's evil, it's immoral. And I just feel like we have to, as a society, stand up against people like me who would bring this out and make it mainstream, because it shouldn't be. Everybody can respect that, even if they disagree with it. That's not what he did.
Electoral suicide, given where he's.
It might have been an electoral landslide, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you have to know what would have happened, you know?
I didn't think before gay marriage was okay, it was legal, and I don't think it now, that most people even care. Like, they care reflexively because that's what they've been told to care about. But the minute that they meet somebody in their own family who is gay, that immediately, that's historical. That's how the country's moved so fast on it, is because more and more people were willing to stand up and say, hey, that's me too. Like, that is the original Me Too movement, right? Like, yeah, I'm, like, people stood up and said, I'm gay and this is who I am. And the people around them were like, oh, well, if he's gay, well, then maybe gay people are okay. It's like that's what happened.
I like that guy. He's fine.
I like that guy. He's cool. Gay people must not be all bad, It's like, yeah. That's why I'm such a big fan of, like, I got in a huge argument years ago with this guy I sold books with. Lisa will remember him if she's still on here, but he was great dude, good friend of mine, but he believed in, like, racial segregation. He was like, look, the problem with this country is that the whites and blacks and Chinese, Mexican, like, they all mix together. And that's the problem. The problem is everybody needs to retreat to their own areas. And I'm not saying they can't be here, but, we need to have black cities and white cities. Like, we're not the same, and we don't need to be mingled. Our culture is different than their culture. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It just needs to be over there. And I mean, he made a real cogent argument. I was always like, I disagree with you, bro, because I think that for me, and all I have is my own experience to draw. I mean, I have what I read and then what I've experienced. And my experience in traveling and seeing other cultures is it broadens you as a human being. Like, when you meet somebody who has a different background than yours, it adds to both of you. Like, you both, like, as long as you're approaching each other in curiosity and openness, like, you learn from each other, Like, I've never met, like, a Muslim, like you, if you introduce me to, like, 10 Muslims, I'm not Muslim, but our dad was raised Muslim. I've met a lot of Muslims, and the more Muslims that I meet, the less convinced I am that Islam is an evil religion and bent on destruction of infidels and all that. Yeah, there's some passages in the Holy Book that say that. There's some passages in our Holy Book.
That's how they
get you. Yeah, sure. Yeah, slippery slope, right? It's like, yeah, you got to be careful, man. Guard your heart.
They're coming for you, man.
Don't be fooled, man. Don't be fooled. Yeah, don't be so open-minded, your brain falls out. Yeah. It's like, I don't. Look, all I can do is live my life, and it's like, when you go out and meet more people, like, I moved into a neighborhood that has a ton of Indian people in it, people from India, and I have a really good friend of mine's Indian. I've met Indians throughout my life, but I've never, like, lived among them to the extent that I am now. And not that it's a majority, but it's still enough. I mean, like, my kids have Indian friends now. They come over to the house, all this stuff, like, I've eaten, the Indian holy meals and all this different stuff, learned about some Indian deities. Right. And it's like, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating culture. And it fosters understanding and empathy and not the opposite. So to me, that's a strength of a multicultural society, if you want to call it that, not a weakness. I think where it becomes a weakness is when you have, like, in any partnership, like our partnership with Israel right now, we talk about, it's like, look, yes, so initially we're aligned on some project that you're trying to do, but then the interests diverge. Like, right now, our interest is in bringing this to a close as quickly as possible, cleanly, quickly, and with a minimum of damage to ourselves, right? We've already damaged ourselves enough. Let's stop the bleeding, right? And their agenda is to have regime change over there so that they have a friendly puppet government in that country. That's their agenda, and that's fine. They've been unapologetic about it. I take them at their word. That's what they want. Fine. but our interests diverge. And so now when we're trying to close the war down, they're killing the people that are going to come and negotiate with us. We have a problem, right? We have a problem. And at some point you have to say, okay, well, we have step one, admit you have a problem. Step two, what are you going to do about it, right? So same thing with multiculturalism. Is like, do we have different things that emerge as a result of cultures, churning together and rubbing up against it? Yes. Okay. So, but if you can define, here's the problem, and do we have enough of a shared agenda to proceed or not? That's ultimately where the conversation is, not should we have even tried this in the first place? Like, I mean, maybe that's the right question, but I mean, I don't see why you're at that point so fast, but we're not even having the conversation,
Yeah. Do you think that there are like fully incompatible cultures? So like I think about some of my sort of mismatched romantic friends, where they're like, oh, I really like this guy and I really like this gal, but the two of them together is not good.
Toxic.
Even though there's nothing wrong with either one of them individually, it's just not going to happen. But
does that have to do with, so to answer your question, does that have to do with because one of them is black and the other one is white, or one of them is Chinese and the other one is Filipino?
I'm saying
it has to do with two people. It has to do with two people who are fundamentally, they want different things. Their values are crossed, right? Or that this one does these things that triggers the other person, right? So yes, there are some people that are fundamentally incompatible, 100%. Are there cultures that are incompatible? I'd love to see a case made. These two cultures are incompatible. Debate me if I'm wrong.
Would be,
fine.
Yeah. That'd be my. So I think we seek a like a little laboratory of this going on right now in France, where I don't know if you ever watch videos of French protests. There's like a very long-standing tradition of kind of militant feminism in France, and so like whenever the women come out to protest, they're always topless and they're holding up signs, kind of thing. It's like this is just part of protesting.
People of France,
as a woman in France, right? It's like you gotta show them off while you hold your sign up, kind of thing. But then there's other cultures where, like, man, if a woman isn't fully covered head to toe, they're asking for it, if you know what I mean. Like whatever you do to them is totally fine, and in fact, probably beneficial to them. They should say thank you afterwards.
Right, because they're learning. That's right.
So it seems like one of those two, like the two of those together, probably cannot coexist side by side. One of them will have to become the other, right? You'll have
one of them will have to win. Yes.
French
one of them has to
win. Like be like, no, we can still protest, but we got to wear, be fully covered,
But I think this is
the other side would be like, sometimes people show their boobs, and that's just how it is, and you just look the other way and move on with your life.
But I think that's something that is, so yes, to your point, like I have the human value that says to expose myself as an act of rebellion and protest. And I have another side that says to expose yourself is a humiliation for everyone that observes it, right? So, okay, those two particular cultural values are incompatible, as you say, right? However, one of them will win, one of them will lose. So like right now, it is totally legal to do that in France. And so these people that say that's a humiliation for all who watch are losing, right? But for now, exactly. But ultimately, like, I mean, who's to say? Like, I know I would interview, let's say, devout Christians who might want to come on this show that would say, yeah, it is wrong that they're displaying their breasts in public, and I mean, it is a humiliating thing. Like, and I can't even have my kids, and I can't even go to the store without saying, it's like, so yeah, and it's like, so they would side with the fanatics rather than the. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me put one more to you. Okay? Let's say you've got one culture that says, follow the rules, treat everybody the same. And then the other culture says, someone's too stupid to not get ripped off. It's their own fault.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one is like,
I know people that believe both those things.
It's like, if I can take advantage of you, then I should. And it's like,
right. I haven't done anything wrong. That's your fault. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of shameful for me not to. Like, wow, I had this opportunity to take from you and I didn't take it. And the other person says, well, no, like in a society, we We appreciate basic fairness. Like if someone's door is open into their home, you don't go walk in and take their stuff. You just walk past it. Like that's not your stuff. Could both of those coexist?
Well, it's an argument in other terms of the whole idea of private property. For example, like in China, there's no concept of private property. Like that's not like the intellectual property, right? It's like we have people that make things over here.
Agree about private property. That was yours. And no, they agree about private property. That was yours, and now it's mine because I took it from you.
Well, but it's actually
because you left it unguarded.
The state will take. It's not a person stealing it from you. It's this that belongs to everyone. Like you are a member of our community, and you created this. Therefore, what you created belongs to the community. There are many companies, in fact, most of them out there, that when you sign an employment contract, I almost signed one a few years ago, and it said, look, anything that you create while you're employed by us belongs to us. You know,
company. Work for hire.
So
it's called
work, but that's okay because it was a contract, and I could either sign it or not sign it. And you know, I ended up never got signed, and so it's we'll say in the passive voice, right? Never got signed. Not sure what happened there. Just never got signed. But that idea is like, I mean, we have that clash right now. People that believe that this type of intellectual property, let's say, it belongs to everyone. And other people say, no, that doesn't belong to you. And in fact, you need to pay me for using it. It's like, when the white settlers like settled, the West, the Indians had no idea. What do you mean? You put up a fence line and said that this land is yours? Like, what are you talking about? He said, he thinks this is his. Like it's ridiculous. Like they didn't have private property. The land belonged to the tribe. Right. So that these are paradigm shifts.
The tribe belonged to the land.
Pardon me. The tribe belonged to the land. Exactly. Yes, exactly. Even more diametrically opposed, right? Or like when the American Revolution, right? The king says, I give you your rights. And, the philosophers say, no, our rights come from God. Well, these are incompatible philosophies, and it results in a war, right? So I don't think that's a revolutionary concept. I do think, though, like you're bringing that up because of the multiculturalism conversation or whatever. It's like ultimately, if you want to participate in a multicultural type of a scenario, it's like the value of like the free speech and the tolerance of like, hey, I might hate what you're saying, but I'll fight for your right to say it. Like that. However, he ended up that movie, The American President, years ago. That Michael Douglas character. He says it the best at the end of that movie. He's like, I might disagree with what you're saying, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. That itself is under basic. I mean, I don't know if it's under assault anymore, or if it's just kind of like nobody believes in that anymore, because like a few years ago,
the idea has fallen on hard times, shall we say?
On hard times. Like a few years ago during the Trump campaign of 2015 and 16. Pardon me, not 15 and 16. This last one, 23, 24.
2024.
Right? 23, 24. Like all of this stuff on the right. These voices coming out and saying like, hey, like it's your right to say those things. Like this is crazy. They're suppressing free speech. We now have many examples, documented examples of the government and technology companies colluding to prohibit or suppress the voices that disagreed with the regime, whether it was on the COVID virus or the Ukraine or any number of different things. Like this is malinformation. It's information that, while true, is not helpful to the narrative that we're trying to push. Right, malinformation.
Planted by the Russians.
Probably planted by the Chinese. Exactly. So like the Russians and the Chinese are having these bots, scramble. We need to do something about it because we have to protect the people's ability to get factual information. Whatever that means, right? And it's like, okay, all of this is coming out from the right, and then you have the election and all this other kind of stuff. And here we are, 2 years later, right? Yeah, 2 years later, and now the very same people, with the exception of JD Vance, I got to give JD Vance some props here, but whether it's Trump, Laura Loomer, go down a whole list of Trump and administration acolytes that are basically calling for censorship around the idea of Israel and around this, genocide and all this stuff. And these people, anti-Semitism and blah, 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 and it's on the rise. And you remember what happened? I mean, dude, they were just talking about it on the on what was that? Oh, the Charlie Kirk show that no longer has Charlie Kirk and doesn't even talk about the same things that he used to talk. It's really weird. It's like if you invited the Charlie Kirk back on your show, he would not be welcome on your show anymore. But they're literally calling for like censorship of people who are either talking down to Israel or are questioning the narrative around the Charlie Kirk shooting. You know maybe there are more questions here to be answered. It's like, oh no, we can't have that. And you remember what happened to Alex Jones during Sandy Hook. That same thing is probably going to happen to some of these people. They took his whole business and blah, blah. It's like, dude, I have clips of Charlie Kirk talking about how Alex Jones was abused by the legal system, and how, like, if you are a fan of free speech, even if you think everything he said was deplorable, like, you should be on the side of, like, the government just can't come in here and take your business because they don't like what you said. Like, that's crazy, right? And it's like, but now his own organization is using the same, literally invoking Sandy Hook to say why people should be silenced. And it's like, man, people don't learn anything. It's like the minute they're in power, all of the narratives that they were just railing against, it's like now they can do no wrong and they don't need any dissent. It's like, man, look, welcome to the club, dude. Nobody in power wants people talking their agenda down. Nobody. So where are your principles now? Maybe you didn't have any to begin with.
Possibly. Say principles.
What
are those? Principles. Are they in the room with us now?
It's bananas. BANANAS. or like Tony just chimed in about, almost positive these guys do not have Nazi tattoos. Almost sure. Yeah. You never know today, because the same guys on the left who were like, Elon threw a Nazi salute, and this rally in MSG, it looks just like the Nuremberg rally. Look, here's the scene from the Nuremberg rallies. Here's the scene it's the same thing. People waving flags, same thing. And it's like, wow, yeah, that's I see the connection you're trying to make. And then it's like, oh, and here you've got a guy with an actual Nazi tattoo running for Senate in one of your states. No problem. He's changed, he tried to get that tattoo removed. It's like, what? Just bananas. BANANAS. That's all I can think of is that song.
Did Maine pick who is going to run against?
The Democrats forced him out. They forced him off the ticket, the Plattner guy. Which, I mean, good riddance, but.
But did they select someone to replace him on the ticket? They have time.
Nobody, dude. Susan Collins will get back in there. I mean, she was going to get back in there anyway, but now she's definitely going to get back in there.
Now it's a shoe.
Yeah,
she's the right kind of moderate for that state.
She's the right person for Maine. Yeah, exactly.
Like, when people are like, we need to get someone more MAGA from Maine. I'm like, really? You think they'll win? Like, this is the best we're getting, guys. You should just be happy. Like,
dude, totally, man. It's like the people that were mad at Bob Casey for being a pro-choice Democrat, a pro-life Democrat. And it's like, hey, you try running as a pro-choice anything in this district, and good luck. Casey was like, I think maybe you should just say thank you for the reliable vote on your side of the table than questioning my Catholicism. Yeah, good point, Bob. Same thing with Fetterman. Although Fetterman's probably gonna. He's probably going to switch. He's so done with Democrats right now.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll be interesting. If he does, I think it'll be really weird to see the Republican Party, who before was like, is he brain damaged? I don't know. Should he even be allowed? Instead, they're going to be like,
now that I spent more time with him, it's a miraculous recovery. Yeah, it's a miraculous recovery. In fact, engaging
back then. He seemed to have problems, but like, he's clearly recovered now, and so we can't hold his previous health issues against him. And he's one of us.
One of us. Yeah. What are your predictions? You have any predictions on anything? What's up for predictions these days?
So I've been watching the AI stuff for a little bit. And this is actually, last couple of weeks have been very interesting on the open source side of things. One of your favorite companies, Moonshot, just came out with the new model K3, Kimi K3. And K3 is the biggest open weight model ever produced. It's probably 3/4 of the size of Fable, which is the new Claude Anthropic
Fable
model that
5.
they're like
Yeah.
super proud of. And it seems to be about as capable, just about as capable for much lower cost. And so Anthropic and OpenAI are doing the stuff that they normally do, which at this point is to be like, this should be outlawed. Like they do
Somebody
not
come in and control us. We shouldn't be doing this.
Well, the thing is that they're saying that those guys should be outlawed.
Sure. Yeah.
And one of the things that happened, and this is, I think, one of the funniest bits of this story. So the site that hosts these open weight models, and they host from it's not like just Chinese models, they host everything. It's called Hugging Face. I have no idea why.
I love that name though. I hug your face.
Hugging Face. So Hugging Face said that they had this hack attempt. And this hack attempt was really, seemed like it's very sophisticated. And so in the process, they were able to shut it down, but then they were looking through the logs trying to figure out, okay, what happened? Well, how did this happen? And they got through some of the layers of their security, but not all of them. And so they're like, okay, how do we harden these layers so this never happens again? So of course, like everybody else, they turned to AI models to help them. So they started with, of course, Fable and GPT-5.6 Soul, which is the new one from OpenAI. And it refused to help them.
Named after the sun god again. I see. You closed the loop.
Yeah, very nice. Happening. So the reason it refused to help them was because they said, well, giving you that kind of security information could be used by hackers. And they're like, no, we were hacked. Like, we're trying to stop the hackers. And they're like, it's too sensitive. It's too dangerous. We can't use it. So then they turned to, so this is right after K3 came out, but they hadn't set it up in quite a strong way. And so they used the next most advanced open weight model, which is also Chinese. It's made by Z.ai, which is a GLM. So GLM 5.2.
Yeah, that's the one everybody's been talking about. Yeah.
Very capable, extremely good model. And they went through the logs with that. It was able to help resolve everything to their satisfaction. And the other thing is that they are themselves hosting GLM 5.2. So they were able to do all of their security work on their own hardware. And so this was like kind of a wake-up call for a lot of people, in the same way that when Fable went up and then Anthropic was forced by the US government to take it down just 48 hours later, that people that are like, oh, my whole business or my API is based on this product. This product could be taken away at any moment from the whims of the government, whims of this company, because this company is at war with another company. I might just get caught in the crosshairs. And it's like, oh, I need to have some kind of sovereignty, some AI sovereignty over my own stuff.
This is a huge conversation right now. Yeah. AI sovereignty.
So Hugging Face now was able to, because they can run the bigger models themselves. We're able to use that in a way that, and it's not that they were disallowed from using the model, it's the model on the US side, the US
wouldn't do it for them. Yeah.
Are too locked down to be useful for this. So today, this morning, I woke up to the news that this hack was performed by OpenAI.
What?
OpenAI,
no way.
When they were testing their one of their models for cybersecurity stuff, it was kind of a red team test. They pointed it at Hugging Face, or they gave it access to the internet. And so Hugging Face had to use a Chinese model that they hosted themselves to protect themselves against an American AI company who was hacking them.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I think they also simultaneously created a partnership to address security incidents.
Yeah. So and to OpenAI's credit, they took accountability for it. Yeah, it was us. We're sorry. We're working with them very closely to make sure this never happens again, et cetera, et cetera. There's of course a good chance that this was good PR for them, because one of the ways that Anthropic tends to stay in the news is by saying, look, our models, they're so dangerous. Like,
they're so dangerous.
this is like nuclear weapon technology. So, no one should have access to them, but you should,
Right.
we'll give you access. We're safe. And so maybe OpenAI is like, no, look, we're dangerous too. See? So we're also scary, So
we're dangerous too. Look.
yeah, we can hack people. Anyway, so now there are calls. I've seen a lot of calls from people in OpenAI, but also there was one from someone in U.S. Commerce, like a government official, saying that that Chinese AI needs to be banned because potentially they're pretty sure OpenAI and Anthropic have both said that they think that the reason the Chinese models are as good as they are is because they've been distilling off of the outputs of the American models. Now, yeah, I know.
That's some rank hypocrisy, considering your entire model was built on stealing the intellectual property of everyone who's ever created anything.
Anthropic just paid out yesterday a $1.5 billion copyright settlement, basically saying, yes, we did it, we're guilty, here's the money.
But yeah, they admitted. I mean, that's yeah.
So it's not like some kind of conspiracy theory. It's like, no, they stole everybody's data. You or I, or if we ever posted anything online, it got hoovered up. We're not going to see a cent of that money. That money's going to someone else. But then they have a model that is running, and that other people purchase the tokens, that your machine generates the tokens and sends back, and you're saying using that information to work on AI is stealing, and shame on you. Right. You should be banned. It's like, it's not
ridiculous.
Even copyrightable.
Well, and this is where
if they did it. Here's the thing: Moonshot came out and said, "Oh, you got your timeline wrong. We've been building Kimi K3. The training data is 3 months old. Fable wasn't even out yet. So, no, it's not possible. Like we would have had to have a time machine in order to be able to train on your data. So no.
Well, I think
it's just like pure FUD at this point. It's just anyway
a pure thud.
Yeah. So this is a term from the 90s. So it's Microsoft strategy, which was fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
FUD.
So like we might not be able to get you outlawed. Okay. Like we might not actually be able to do that. But if we can say, well, no, like you could be outlawed, or, the government is looking into this, or you might be liable for something that you're not even aware of yet, or whatever. And if you create enough doubt, then that
model's really
competitor.
That model's really popular with the smaller mom and pop shops that are more economically concerned about. But for regulated industries like yours, I mean, a lot of people are saying it's not worth the risk. I don't know. It's obviously your decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like the other thing that somebody was saying on I was watching All In podcast, and they were talking about how enough of these companies are realizing it's like, okay, I've deployed Claude, let's say, and we're running Claude code in a harness, whatever the case may be, and we're feeding it all of this business data. We're feeding it all these spreadsheets, all these reports, all this stuff, and then we're asking it to draw conclusions and give us direction. Like, okay, out of these what are the top 6 possibilities? Which one should receive the highest priority, et cetera. At some point, and there's been cases where it's like, well, and then they just come out and create the same exact product. So you're using the AI to deliver this functionality. Google's been doing this, like just basically like, oh, we can do that now too. And here's a new agent to do that. And here's a new agent to do that, because they're getting all this data of like, okay, here's what people are trying to do with the product. Oh, that'd make a really good product. And then they just release it, for free or whatever the case may be. It's not for free, but you can use your tokens for it, et cetera. And it just drives token use. And now it just puts this company out of bid. They literally just slit your throat, your business throat. Because you were dumb enough to use a model that somebody else had visibility to how you were using it, and not only that, but even if they didn't, let's say the whole thing was double encrypted. If this company is competing with these 3 companies and they're all using Claude code to run their spread and look at their spreadsheets, find the opportunities, et cetera, they're all just going to start doing the same thing. So it literally takes out any of the blue ocean or the creativity or any of the other stuff that countless business books have been written about. And that's what's, I think, driving a lot of this, like even from like, forget about like the theft and all this other kind of stuff, but just like, hey, just does it make sense for you as a business owner to not have complete sovereignty control over the brain that is running your business. It makes, sorry?
You should have sovereignty over your own.
And your own thinking about those processes, right? So it's really fascinating. I mean, I use AI a lot, obviously, and it's like, but the more I'm using it, the more I'm like this is really incredible. But like at some point, you're like Google just released this thing called Sparks. I don't know if you've seen it, but they announced it. Okay, so they announced it like say a month ago, and I have a pro account, so it just popped on my account like, oh, you use Spark, and I'm like, oh, cool. I'd like check it out, and it literally it's like the thing that like a lot of these like Perplexity Computer and some of these other services, like you basically it's not like you're building a like an OpenClaw or a Hermes agent. Is more I'm gonna have even if I don't use I could either use a local model or I can use a Gemini model, but all of the harness, the computing, the decision making, the individual agents that are going to be running the task, they live on my computer. I'm directing them and programming them, and I'm giving this access to this, et cetera, all on my system. What these systems are doing is saying, hey, you go to their website, you plug in use your API keys, your codes, your OAuths, whatever the case may be, and you give this other company all of your stuff to plug into this AI to go and do things on your behalf. And this guy that I just watched this podcast this morning. This guy was going on about like, it's unbelievable. Look what I'm able to do. And the guy that had booked him, so I was watching, this one guy has a podcast where he talks about like AI and the different repo. He loves like GitHub repos and GitLab repos and stuff. And like, here's an open source repo that you can deploy that actually like will stop you having to pay for this subscription, or will this thing right over here, these guys are charging a fortune for, but you clone this repo, and then now you don't even need them anymore. That kind of thing, right? And I'm fascinated with that. I've spooled up I don't know how many programs on my home server and they legitimately like do exactly what they say. Like I literally just transitioned out of Bitwarden, which is my password manager. There's an open source Bitwarden deployment called Vault Warden that completely open source. You literally can spin it up in a container on your computer, and then it uses the same Bitwarden apps and widgets and everything. Like Bitwarden thinks they even have a thing where it says you can sign into a hosted server. And so now all of my passwords and encryptions and everything else is living on my own server, and I get all the pro features for free. Don't have to pay for it anymore. Yeah, you're Googling it right now. It's excellent.
I'm just installing it on my home lab.
There you go. And so
by the way, thanks again for turning me on to doing this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You can if you want, I'll give you an account on mine. You don't even need to do it. But I can't see it.
Self-hosting.
Self-hosting.
Yeah.
But see, that's my point. It's like, okay, so you can this guy has this podcast. He's got millions of views on his podcast, and this other guy had reached out. He's an efficiency expert and a business coach and stuff like that. And he had reached out to the guy over email, and they'd had a conversation. And even the big podcaster guy blew him off a little bit. Was like, well, I mean, I don't know how much this would help you. Like, your channel's not that big, et cetera. And the guy kind of came back and sold him on being there. This guy, the efficiency expert, revealed on the show that actually the guy had never actually talked to him at all. It had all been an AI version of him that he had deployed using this harness solution. The entire thing, like the AI runs the guy's entire business, responds to emails on his behalf, does transactions, balances out the checkbook, like literally everything. Like if there's anything that could be delegated, this guy delegated it. And the guy running the podcast was like, man, I just don't know if I'm that comfortable. He goes, well, that's a challenge with a lot of business people is they're not comfortable with delegating some of the things that would really help them get to the next level, And he's like, yeah, but you're delegating to, I mean, this isn't even an employee that you could fire. It's like you're responsible for literally everything. I mean, you're responsible for your employees too, but you can't even point the finger at anybody. This thing drains your bank account or whatever and walks off. Like you're just like, what are you going to do with that? I don't know. It's to me, it's not like what's that old saying of like, why did you do, why did you climb Mount Everest? Well, because it was there. It's like, okay, but just because it's there, just because you can do it, doesn't mean that's the thing maybe you should be doing. Like in a lot of these cases, especially from a business standpoint, it's like, okay, yes, there's a lot of exponential value I get from deploying some of these things, but if I deploy them unseriously or like without thinking, and the thing is that everything that we've done for the past like couple of years as people have experimented with this, it's not that we weren't thinking, it's that we weren't thinking about what we weren't thinking about. It's like that old question, right? Like, I know what I know, and I know what I know I don't know, but I have no idea what I don't know that I don't know, right? Like tell me one thing that you don't know that you don't know. It's like, well, I don't know, because it's in the realm of I haven't thought about that yet, or I even know that was something you could think about, right? And I think that's what's so interesting about this particular period is like all of these things. If you're in this space, the AI space, what you're thinking about now, you didn't even know you could be thinking about 6 months ago, right? It's not even like, well, it wasn't a consideration. It's like, oh, using OpenClaw and running a system level daemon on your system that literally has root level access to everything. Well, that's a massive attack service. Like, but some people were saying that, but those people were like written off as like, what are you, like John the Baptist, some voice in the wilderness, like, go eat your locusts and honey, man, we got work to do over here. And then it's like, and then Hermes comes out, and Hermes is containerized and, no system level daemon, et cetera. And it's like, people are like, oh, okay, now this makes more sense. I can embrace a little bit more of this, right? But then you have people like this guy who are just like handing out their API keys to some company they don't even know. Like, it's nuts. That's nuts. But I had my Google API key got harvested. I don't know. I didn't tell you this. So I had a Gemini key that I had deployed on. I deployed on something, and somehow, whatever I deployed it on, it just stopped working one day. And I was like, so in troubleshooting, I got down to, it's because the key is being rejected. And so then I went to AI Studio, Google AI Studio, logged in and looked, and it's like, oh yeah, the key's been locked down because of misuse. I'm like, misuse? I go in, and it's got all this like this usage data and this usage spike right around these 2 days, and then it charged me. I mean, it wasn't like astronomical, but it was like $560, and Google just charged my Amex, and I was like, dude, what is this? They're like, well, we noticed that it was being abused, and this had the pattern of like somebody who had lost their API key, or somebody else had picked it up, and so we just locked down your account. You're welcome. And I'm like, you're welcome. What about my $500? And they're like, well, you use the tokens. I'm like, I didn't use the tokens, but
did you pay for it with a Visa?
Amex. Oh, and I should just dispute it with Amex. Yeah.
Be like, well, this is the fraudulent charge. You'll probably have your Google account locked until you release that. So
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Just depends on how valuable your Google account is.
I'm almost close enough to be. So I finally got all my Google Docs and everything. I got onto Nextcloud. I got image set up for all my Google photos. All my photos are over there now. I even figured out how to like plug image into Nextcloud, so that the Nextcloud's Photos app, you can disable it obviously, but there's now an image plugin for Nextcloud. So now I can literally just hit a tab in my Nextcloud dashboard, and in the Nextcloud interface, look through, browse through, control, manipulate all my image photos. But it's amazing, dude. Like, I mean, the Google Meet, I can now do Nextcloud Talk with. I can do like literally so close to just being able to say peace out, guys. But it's pretty legit.
I think if I was building my digital life from scratch, I would probably not have any single auth system at all. I would have an email that I pay for only email, which I kind of do that right now. I don't use Proton, but I use something kind of like that, to where it's like, okay, I'm paying for that separately. I can say on the stream, but yeah, but it's like I have so that email is the one that I use for all of my anything that requires two-factor authentication or anything like and so that one is separate, right? So like if something happens to one of my other accounts, or if I get crossways with X or something like that, and they're like, you're banned forever, then it doesn't spill over into my email. Like that is totally separate. And so then the other services I can sort of just buy, use or not use as I want, right? So I'm not, it's like, well, if I need AI tokens, I can buy them from OpenRouter, or if I want, source code version control, I can buy that from GitHub or somewhere else or whatever. And I can have a
You can even
Microsoft account, whatever.
you can self-host your own GitHub now.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like you can just so instead of what I've noticed is people are like, well, wait, I can't do something that Google doesn't like because not only is all of my emails in there, but all of the accounts that I have elsewhere are either linked to that
authorized. Yeah.
or I have used that email as my recovery email. So I can never lose that email. And so that means I can never do anything that Google would not approve of or where I would get banned. And it's like, oh, like I don't want to be in that situation. It's not like I hate Google or something. It's just like I don't want to be in that situation with any company. Like, why would I want that? So
it's interesting, dude. It's almost dystopian in a way, right? It's like so far, like what's Google's model? Don't be evil. It's like
it used to be their motto.
It was. Yeah. It's like so far you haven't done anything to mess with me,
I think they're sort of moderately evil. Like I don't think they're all the way. I think Anthropic is like actually evil. I would put Google at slightly less evil or slightly more evil than Microsoft right now. So more evil than Microsoft, less evil than Oracle. I think IBM has climbed themselves out of the evil category at this point. I don't know.
Why do you, I know why you think Anthropic is evil. Why do you think Google is more evil than Microsoft?
Oh, so Microsoft
is just maybe dumb. Is that except it's hard to say dumb because you're making a lot of money, but
so
pushing your own customers away at a real alarming clip. If I would, I don't know. I'm not in your business. Maybe your subscribers aren't worth that much to you.
Well, so I think of it as like they've and this is going to sound really dumb. They've done a lot for like open computing over the last 10 years.
Microsoft,
a lot. So Visual Studio Code being an open source project is the #1 code editor in the world. They've kept it open source. .NET went from like Microsoft lock-in to now developed completely into open source. The official reference implementation is an open source implementation. Edge actually has a very nice Linux version. GitHub gives away big like developer level account access to open source projects. So I feel like, okay, they do some shady stuff that I don't like, but they are also helping things in a way that is, I think, pretty good. Where I think with Google, while they used to champion open source and like open computing stuff, like if you think about like the original Android, the original Android was like a PC. Like it was, you could run custom ROMs on it. You could do all sorts of that. It was like, this is a computer for you to like be empowered by it. And it has just, this trajectory has been extremely steady of less and less and less open. And, part of that is that, they hated that Kindle, that Amazon made a Kindle tablet that ran Android, but did not use their apps. And so they're like, well, okay, in that case, you can't use this and this and this either. And then we're going to tie a whole bunch of stuff to parts that are not part of the Android open source
Google
project.
Play services. Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I still have an Android phone. I like my Android phone. I think it's still better than the iOS experience to me personally. It's less locked down than iOS, but it's a far cry from what it was back in like the Android 3 days or Android 4 days. And it's like, that's okay. But so I see Google as like wrong trajectory where just as a whole, where Microsoft is like half and half, like they do good things, they do some bad things.
Where would you put Apple on your spectrum of evil, your axis of evil?
Axis of evil. So I don't actually think of Apple as a particularly evil company at all.
Me neither. And so they're super closed though.
Yes, but they're extremely honest about that. Like at no point, I've never seen.
They never pretended to be something they're not. Yep, we're closed. If you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a walled garden. Here's why a walled garden is good. This is why we do it. And it's like, okay, so like I can participate in the walled garden or not. They're actually very strong on user privacy, way better than Google is. Like you're much less likely to have all of the info in your phone harvested by third parties on iOS
Well,
than an Android.
up until last week, you know. So
Well, they
last week they rolled out the new Siri that's paired up with Gemini. Of course, it is a very buttoned
very
down
limited,
version of Gemini. Yeah,
and other
but
things too. Like
they finally removed the silos though. So now, see, the problem with Siri has been. I mean, think about like in fact we were just talking about this. I was like, dude, I bought the iPhone 4 in 2009, or maybe early 2010. I guess is maybe, but early 2010. No, it was late 2000 and late 2009. Bought the iPhone 4 and it came with Siri, and that was the first time everybody's like, dude, like that was the first AI assistant that you could talk to, even though it got a lot of things wrong and blah blah blah. But it was still like, oh my god, like nobody had anything like that. Yeah. And to for them to be in a position of, I mean, just this year basically being the joke of AI chat. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna use Siri. Like she doesn't know anything because she's compartmentalized. She can only see into, you know.
Well,
but now they've removed that. So.
Yeah, I think actually being late to this party has been really good for them as a company, and that you can sort of wait to let things shake out. People can put their apps on your device, that's cool. And then when you say, okay, who is doing a service that matches what we think our users will get the most usefulness out of, we can go with that once it's a little bit more mature. And so being connected to Gemini, I think makes perfect sense. Like, I think that's great. So, I mean, I also other things about Apple, like back when the Hackintosh was a thing, back when Intel Mac was a thing. I don't remember any. There was one lawsuit that I remember seeing where someone was selling PCs
That's right.
with iOS.
They were calling
iOS,
them Hackintosh, you know?
Yeah.
They were, it was trademark violation.
Yeah. But other than that, like if someone wanted to download it and use it, they're not going to come after you. In fact, they probably see it as like, you know, hey, you know, you'll probably want a real Mac later. So if that's what you want to do, we're not going to come after you. You just can't sell it to compete with us and other stuff too. So like, I think they've had a lot of opportunities to lock down or modify the OS 10 experience, and they have steadfastly refused to do so. So I see them as like, you know, pretty good company. That their stuff doesn't appeal to me as much, but that's just because it doesn't line up with the things that I want to do. But I have nothing against them as a company. What about you? I mean, do you feel differently?
No, I agree with you. From an AI standpoint, like, do any of these big name AI players stand out to you as like, you know, if I wasn't going to run my own model, if I was going to deal with a what do you call it, frontier model, these guys are the least evil out of
least objectionable.
Least objectionable. What do you think?
So I think that so I often use public models, but I use them through Open Router. So I don't have like buying by the token, like whatever, like it's fine. I think that like, are you?
Don't you get a way better run? Like, don't you get a way better? Like, if I'm going to spend, let's say, $20 a month on any number of these, I could buy Claude or Gemini or OpenAI or whatever. Grok, I guess, is $30, just because why not? Versus paying by the token off of Open Router. Don't you have a way better run for your money if you subscribe? I feel like these models are hugely subsidized if you don't use the API.
They're subsidized at least 20, if not 25 times. So your $200 Claude Codec subscription is worth probably $4,000 to $5,000 a month if you
of API calls
the maximum solve time. Yeah, so that is so one of the reasons that I don't do that is I don't want to get used to unsustainable pricing. So they're trying to do that in order to capture the market, but also to get as much training data as possible. So you using the model and saying, no, that wasn't quite right. My gosh, that is the incredibly valuable signal that you just got back, sent back to the company.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically using it to buy your training data. And so I don't really want my stuff to be trained on, just in general. And once these subsidies end, which they will, I mean, Anthropic loses what, $40 billion a year
No, I think they're
or more.
what did I see?
It's more
Let's
than
see
that.
here.
They lose bukus of money per month serving this stuff. OpenAI loses even more. Like but that's kind of the goal of that company, is to lose as much money as possible.
I
At
feel
least
like
at this point.
I feel like well, I'm going to find out here real quick, but I feel like it may be true on their, yeah. So
And these are
historically,
private companies, so we don't have hard numbers. It's just the stuff that they've chosen to reveal.
right. So historically, Anthropic operated at a massive loss. In 25, the company had an estimated cash burn of 5.2 billion against an annualized revenue run rate of roughly 9 billion. So it cost them 14 billion basically to make 9, right? So the massive cost of renting and purchasing compute, such as Google and Amazon servers for training and inference, outweighed the incoming revenue. However, the first half of 26, I just remember reading that. Yeah, Anthropic experienced unprecedented enterprise adoption, led largely by their B2B API contracts and the massive success of Claude Code. So the company's annualized revenue run rate skyrocketed from 9 billion at the end of 25 to over 30 billion by April, some estimates reaching 47 billion in May. And unlike OpenAI's heavy reliance on massive consumer base, Anthropic has dominated enterprise. So 8 of the Fortune 10 are Claude customers, with over 500 companies spending more than $1 million a year. Due to this 80 times surge in enterprise usage, Anthropic reached a major milestone, reporting they were set to turn their first operating profit of 559 million in Q2. So yeah, I just read that.
Yeah, we'll see if they do.
Yeah.
If they're able to turn a profit on it, that's great. I know if you're buying by the token, those are profitable numbers. So I think Fable is $50 per million out.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Yeah, crazy.
So it's like, yeah, they're making money on that. I just don't want to I've seen a lot of people I've seen a lot of discussion about like we can do X, Y, and Z with AI because AI is basically free. And it's like, no, it's free right now. It ain't gonna be that way. Like this is what it's actually they're planning to charge you. And so like I would like for what I use to be reflected in the actual costs.
Are you running your own localized models as well? I feel like you are, aren't you? Yeah. And so the more you use your local models, the training data that you are giving them, that lives in their markdown files and their skill set. So like you own that training, right?
I own all that data. Yeah. That doesn't leave. Now I do pay for a Gemini subscription. And the reason why, and this is why I think actually Google is going to be fine in the AI world. They have really focused on AI as like web enhancement. So I've recently switched, unless I'm looking for a website. Like if I want to find a website, that's fine. I'll use like a regular web search. But if I'm just like, who exactly were the primary generals in Napoleon's army or whatever? Right. I don't want to go look for a website because I'm going to find tons of stuff and I'm going to have to wade through all that. Like I just want some answers. I want to go back and forth. And Gemini, because Google has basically the entire internet cached on their servers, and they have like first party search here. If I'm doing, I can do it on my own system. I'll show you at some point if you want to see it. But so like I can do the web search, and then you can see the tool calls. Opens a web portal. Let's pull a search. Found 10 results. Let's read each one of the 10 results. Let's synthesize. Bop, 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 bop. Here's your answer. It takes a minute. And Gemini, because all the stuff's already cached, it doesn't have to run the search. It doesn't have to run the search.
Right.
I just da-da-da, and then almost instantly, like maybe a second.
Yeah.
Boom. But that's the thing, is that what I'm paying for then is, I'm not saying you're going like, I need these are the best tokens. It's like, no, these are generated from the best cached store
data set
of the
that's
web.
Right.
And not the training data, but like what it's reading in order to formulate that answer for me. And so I'm like, oh, well, I'm totally happy to pay for that service. But like, I'm not paying for the inference, I'm paying for the speed and access to the internet as a whole. And so, and only Google can do this. They're the only ones that are set up for this. Like if OpenAI or Anthropic could, but they'd have to recreate the entire apparatus that Google uses. And then Google gets kind of for free. Like they're already caching all of the images online for Google Photos. Like it's already there. Like they don't have to go create a new one.
That's what's amazing to me that point. That's right. It just pointed. It's like, that's what made that subscription like such a no-brainer for me. I was like, dude, this is great. I got all my documents here anyway. I got all my pictures here anyway. I got all this. It's just like, yeah, dude, just tie that together and let me know what's going on. You know, like, I mean, it's
no problem. Like I don't even use all those extra features. Like I have no problem paying the base subscription price just for that. And
well, because the way they sell it to you too is like you're already going to spend $10 a month on like on the 2 terabyte storage space. Most people are going to go beyond the. I think it goes from 300 gigs to 2 terabytes. Like those are so whenever you get to the 300 gig like level, which if you have your photos and some video, I mean, like you're going to be at that spot anyway. So it's like, okay, so
it's gonna happen.
You're already spending you're going to spend $10 a month. Spend another 10, and now I'm spending 20, which is what I would be giving OpenAI or Claude for just an account. And this not only is the AI, on par, 99% of the time, but it's also tied into everything that I already own. So it's pretty great.
So here's the thing
from a positioning standpoint.
Yeah, it's not on par when it comes to like a lot of advanced reasoning tasks. But the thing is that I think 96% of the requests that come through an AI model are the kinds of things that Gemini can point at a web search and give good results on. And like the times that you actually, those advanced reasoning tasks, ones where you like ask and then an hour later after it's churned through all these tokens starts producing results, those are the ones that are expensive to serve. Like I can guarantee you that your $20 subscription to Gemini is profitable for Google because it doesn't cost them practically anything to serve those requests. And so it's like, oh yeah.
Well, the other thing,
just keep them going. Like
the other thing that people are noticing is like as they release these agents, like for me, like, so you spin up an agent or two, you're like, okay, here's what I want done. Like I have an assistant, for example, an admin, a human admin. And I'll tell him, hey, do this, right? I want this done. And he'll get like halfway into it and he'll be like checking like, hey, is this what you're looking for? But the AI usually does not do that. Like even if you tell it like, hey, if you get stuck, like ask me, it doesn't, it just goes. And so now here's this 40-page report of something that's like, dude, you missed the whole point of what I was looking for. But thanks for burning through all those tokens, right? Like it's completely useless bullshit you just gave me. So it's like the better way to do it is to create a team. So you have like, you create an agent who's like a supervisor, and then he creates like, okay, so I'm going to provide you, this one's a researcher, this one's a this one's a that, and you are coordinating these guys, and this little team of 3 or 4 can actually get, even if it's just 2, even if it's just one supervising another, you're dramatically increasing because you give this one the full project scope. He gives out one task at a time to the junior partner, and it goes and comes back, and you go, okay, great, now go get me this. No, that's not what we need. Go back and get me that. That is hugely more. And so like, I don't even know that some of these use cases are even useful. It's like, dude, like you already lost the context of whatever, where the context window like a long time ago. So it's like if I create an Obsidian vault with a bunch of markdown files and instead like say, okay, here are the tasks, here's the sequence that I need done. Now go do this. You're in way better shape than if you just like give something like, oh, I need to craft the proper prompts. It's like, think about all these people that had these huge businesses just like a year and a half ago on prompt engineering. Like, oh, give this course on prompt engineering, it's over, like nobody wants that anymore, which is crazy. Like it was like, oh no, like used to be, it'd be like, oh man, that was not crafted properly. You should have crafted it like this. But now it's like, none of that matters. Like you start out like that. You're just not even organized at all. If you don't know what you're trying to get back, and I think that's the problem with a lot of people. It's like, if you don't know where you're trying to go, like eventually if I did this and if I did that and if I got this and if I got that, then I would end up here, right? Like that whole thinking very few people even go through that. Like, here's what I'm actually trying to, like, my life would look a lot better if this, right? And so how do I back into that? Well, to do that, I would need to automate this. I would need to automate that. And then you start working on that, but you have the vision of where you're trying to go. But a lot of people are just like, can I automate this now? Can I automate this now? Because I was like that even like several months ago, like, oh, I can do this. Perfect. Let's do that. Not even asking like, should I do that? Or what would be the benefit of that? And if I did that, how would that make my business better? You know, it's just it's a new toy. You got to drive your car around the block a few times, you know?
I think it helped you to the point where you're like, oh, I don't want to automate this. Like, oh, you know, it's interesting
Right.
that
This actually is what I like doing. I don't want to automate that one. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Or
like I hate doing.
maybe
Automate this.
it may be one of those things that's like so core to you that like it's like, okay, well, I want to be able to answer customer feedback. And you know, like so, you hear about some CEOs that are like, no, like every day I take 10 of the feedback forms and I answer them like, you know, personally.
Right.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
couldn't the customer service representative do a better job of that? And it's like, yeah, a lot of
Not the
people can
point.
do things better than I can.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is that I'm doing it because that keeps me in touch with what's going on in my company and
Right.
so on.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, well, I don't want to delegate that. You know, I want to do that.
But it is interesting. Like if you like from a customer service standpoint, I saw this interview the other day, and the guy was talking about how he had a consulting company, and what they would do is he had this team of like VAs, virtual assistants, most of them in the Philippines. They were trained, very good English speakers, et cetera. And the companies would hire him to come and take over their customer service, basically. And so he was talking about like the last one that he did was this one, and they were trying to get. I think he said, okay, well, we want every incoming ticket to be responded to in an hour, no more than an hour, but they should get a response in an hour. And then we want resolution within, I think it was like 3 days. Like within 3 days, they want resolution. So 1 hour, 3 days. He's like, no, we never really got close to that. He's like, we would get like on the responding side, you know, you could set up some autoresponders, different things like, hey, we got your request. We'll be with you in a minute. You know, your team is hard at work. You know, Santa's elves are building your toys. We'll be with you soon, right? And you know, so okay, well, but that doesn't really count as a connection. So like we're measuring connection. We would get, you know, sometimes we'd hit an hour. Sometimes more than likely it was like a couple hours. But certainly like this half of the business day, we would be back in touch with you. And then the 3 days was like, I mean, some things we could get, but on average, it was like always just outside. It was like 4 days, 5 days. Some of them would be there a week, and finally we get resolved. And we'd be like, oh, you know, you'd have some meeting like this one's still 10 days. Oh my gosh. Once I think he started doing it with OpenClaw. So he's like, see, but now they've moved to more secure methods. But he's like, when OpenClaw came out, and you realize, oh man, I could create a harness, put these agents, and then have them do. And he's like, so he goes, basically like with this one client, I was like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Would you allow me to deploy it? It'll be my cost, right? And you just pay me for my team. My team will be working, but like I'm going to implement this at my cost. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, but whatever they're in, I anticipate better results. Whatever those results are, we're not going to change your contract or anything. If you allow me to, you know, they were like, yeah, go for it. So within like a week of like building and trying and different things, they had gotten their response rate to under 5 seconds, right? So because it's an AI. So like immediately a ticket comes in, within 5 seconds, the AI has responded, read your thing, we take this seriously, blah, blah, and it was all good verbiage and everything like that. And then resolved within 2 hours. 2 hours. Like that was their, like, so from a week to 2 hours, right? And he's like, the comments that we would get would be like the fact that people were being handled and taken care of, like they're talking on email or on a chat, right, with somebody, almost never over the phone. It's like, you know, you go to GoDaddy, you have a problem with your thing, and then some guy in Singapore pops up and is like, how can I help you? You know, my name's Ramit, now I can have whatever. And I've always had great experience with the chat, but in fact, if there's a chat box, like I got trained, like I'd rather use that. I don't want to call on a phone. I don't need that. You just hop on the chat, take care of my problem. The fact that AI was getting things resolved within like 2 hours, people were like, I've never experienced customer service. This is the best customer service I've ever had in my life, because they were just so like, dude, we're not trying to make friends. We're just trying to solve your problem, right? Like you have a flat tire, let's put some air in and get you on the road. That's it. That's our job. And it's like, man, the fact that a guy with like, you know, 6 people who he now no longer employs any of those people. Like, so he's like, but yeah, dude, this is, he literally has like, I think 2 humans that are now working, but it's more on like coaching the AI and like just kind of like making the system run. But
just get escalated because like, if it doesn't know how to handle that one, like we're going to need to make an exception or something. And you need people to do that.
Like, so talking about Gemini, like, I mean, I used to, when I was first getting into self-hosting, right? Like, especially the way that I eventually configured my system was like on a read-only chassis so that nothing could interfere with the system, and also like containerizer. You were forced to build containers basically inside the system to run an environment. You couldn't just let something go play on your system because it didn't have access to the right things. And you know what I'm talking about because you helped me build that. So like, so when I finally moved to oh man, I forgot where I was going with that. That's too bad because it was pretty good. I literally
good story
lost my complete chain of thought there. That sucks. Anyway, maybe it'll come back to me.
Senior moment. We have them. We're old enough.
Yeah,
we get to have them.
I guess so. Yeah, that's right. I could just throw it up to that. Well, hey, I gotta run, dude. This was
for 2.5
good.
Anyway. Like we should probably.
Yeah, it was good. No wonder, dude. My Adderall's worn off, and I got nothing else to say. Can't even remember what I was talking about. We're done.
Voice is over.
See you next week.
Too much podcasting.
Appreciate you guys tuning in, dude. It was really good to catch up with you. Let's do it again, but maybe not 2 weeks, just 1 week next time. If there's enough to talk about. All right. See you, man. See you guys.